Chapter 4571. Sir, the merit officer on duty did his best to dodge the two magic wands and shouted. Whoosh! Before the merit officer on duty could finish his words, the merit officer on duty waved his hand, and a golden meteor shot into the sky, disappearing in an instant. Seeing that the message had been sent, the merit chow opened his mouth and several clouds appeared, blocking the magic wand as he shouted. When Lord Tai Bai Jinxing arrives, see if I won't teach you a lesson. Whoosh! With a clear sound, the clouds were swept away and two Jin Kongs appeared in front of the merit officer on duty. The merit officer on duty was so frightened that he hurriedly retreated. Seeing that the merit officer on duty was retreating, the two Jin Kongs stopped. They lazily put away their magic wands and scratched the fur on their body, coldly saying, "The immortal officials of the immortal palace are only SSO. No wonder they couldn't send out any capable subordinates. Previously, I didn't understand why Zhen Han was so lazy and tried to shirk his responsibility. Now that I look at you all, going too far is as bad as not going far enough. If you all also participated in the sutra-seeking extreme bliss, I would have already beaten your butts." When Zhen Han heard this, his face turned ashen. Right now, he didn't want to help Zhen Kong find the fake Zhen Kong. Instead, he wanted to beat the real Zhen Kong to death. All right. Since Tai Bai Jinxing of the Immortal Palace is here, then I will wait here. Then I'll wait here, and see what kind of ability that old man has. The two Jin Kongs were also tired of fighting. They muttered as they stood in the air. However, the two of them revealed an ominous glint in their eyes as they stared at each other, as if they would attack if the other party wasn't careful. At this moment, the fake Zhen Kong no longer looked at the thatched cottage. His hesitation had already caused him to throw away his best chance. The arrival of the merit officer of the Four Seasons had completely ruined his plan. Now he could only act according to the situation. Boom! In just a short moment, a rumbling sound could be heard in the distant sky. The vast energy pillar within several hundred li of the space was like a surging tide. Layers of whirlpools mixed with fragments of inscriptions were thrown into the sky like water splashes. Amidst the whistling of the wind, a dozen distorted and flat light shadows streaked across the sky and landed in front of everyone in an instant. A wave of majestic aura emanated from these light shadows, causing everyone to feel suffocated. Just as everyone was about to bow in salute, a tricolored rainbow bridge appeared among the dozens of lights and shadows, and shot towards the sky where everyone had come from. Boom, boom, boom! Hundreds of mighty pillars of energy descended, and the dozens of glowing figures instantly filled up. In an instant, they transformed into several 100 feet tall inspectors. These inspectors were all around the 6th grade of origin energy. Each of them stood there proudly, allowing the clouds around them to flow like water and cover the area within 100 miles. The three-colored bridge let out a roar and quickly shrank. An old man with white hair and a whisk flew out from the bridge. This old man had a kind face and looked very hale and hearty. However, when the old man landed in front of them, a formless pressure surged through the mighty aura in the sky, causing everyone to feel as if they were looking up to a tall mountain. This official greets Lord Tai Bai Jinxing. The merit keepers of the Four Seasons did not dare to be negligent. They all bowed and greeted respectfully. Tai Bai Jinxing's gaze swept across the two Jin Kongs, and he already knew what had happened. He waved his whisk and said indifferently, "Wait for me to come over. You must have sent a message for this old man to come over, because of these two fire apes." "Lord is wise," the merit keepers of the Four Seasons said with a flattering smile. "You didn't even wait for this official to speak, and you were already able to see the reason. This official truly admires you." Tai Bai Jinxing did not reply. Instead, he looked thoughtfully at the two fire apes, and then raised his head to look in the direction of the Eastern Sea. He said in bewilderment, "This is really strange. This matter of the real and fake Zhen Kong doesn't seem to be arranged by the Immortal Palace. Could it be a test from the Lane Temple?" Old man Tai Bai. When the two Zhen Kongs saw that Tai Bai Jinxing did not differentiate between the real and fake Zhen Kong, and instead suspected that it was a trap from the Lane Temple, they could not help but cry out, "What exactly are you?" Before the two Jin Kongs could finish speaking, the two patrol officers roared, "How dare you!" Then with a loud boom, two bolts of 5 chi righteous lightning struck down at the same time, hitting the two Jin Kongs. Ioyo the two Zhenkongs cried out in pain at the same time, and they rolled in the air in the same manner. Interesting, interesting. When Taibai Jingxing saw the two Zhenkongs in the same situation, his eyes lit up. He could not help but stroke his beard and laughed. Just where did the Lane Temple get these demons from? They are actually so intelligent. Damn it, the two Zhenkongs cried out in pain. Lightning circled around their bodies, and the mighty aura turned into inscription chains that bound their hands and feet. At the same time they cursed softly. Why are you torturing this old man for no reason? If you have the ability, hurry up and drag this demon out. Demons are hard to get rid of. Taibai Jingxing coldly looked at the two Zhenkongs and said, even if this demon brought the Mahayana Buddhist scriptures to the hidden immortal continent, how many Buddhist sects can they ignite? Previously, this old man was still worried, but after looking at this fire ape, this old man finally understood the immortal emperor's intention. As he spoke, Taibai Jingxing pointed his finger at the two Zhenkongs, and the two Zhenkongs cried out in pain. Taibai Jingxing narrowed his eyes and looked at the two Zhenkongs and said, calling yourself this old man in front of this old man, didn't Xuanzang teach you to respect the old and love the young? After speaking, Taibai Jingxing looked at the dozen patrol officers and ordered, wait and see which one is the real Zhenkongs and which one is the fake fire ape. Yes, my lord. The dozen patrol officers did not dare to be negligent. A few of them used their eye-cleansing technique to look carefully, and a few of them took out their imperial equipment. Those imperial equipment were either mirrors or rings, and all of them emitted a misty green light. Unfortunately, after half a cup of tea's time, the patrol officers looked at each other in dismay. They looked at each other and said in unison, my lord, please know that we are unable to identify them. Ah. It can't be. Taibai Jingxing was somewhat bewildered. Moreover, his face was somewhat embarrassed and angry. You all have the cultivation of great grandmaster, but you can't even see through the true form of these two demon clans? Yes, my lord. The patrol officer at the front was also somewhat ashamed. He replied in a low voice, with our divine abilities, we can only see two fire apes that are exactly the same. We can't see any difference. Taibai Jingxing nodded. If this is Lane Temple's test, how could they let us Confucian cultivators find a flaw so easily? All of you back off. Yes, sir. The dozen or so inspectors retreated slightly and sealed off the nearby space. Swoosh! Taibai Jingxing waved his hand and a cold light flew out. It was like a full moon rushing into the sky. When this light appeared, everyone could see clearly that it was a mirror that was like a full moon. This mirror was different from ordinary mirrors. The surface of this mirror was light gold. However, this light gold color seemed to be slightly cold. Moreover, the surface of the mirror was not flat. It was actually a layer of uneven surface. The light on the surface of the mirror shot out from the uneven surface, bringing with it some black spots. Quick! Taibai Jingxing roared. He raised his hand and pointed. The mirror continued to spin in midair, and an oval light shadow was born in midair. Strange. Zhen Han, who was at the side, could clearly see that Taibai Jingxing's chanting was actually a Taoist mantra. As for the golden light that came from his finger, it was similar to Taoist magic power. Pooh! Just as Zhen Han was in shock, Taibai Jingxing slapped the top of his head. A five-colored true energy surged out, turning into the shape of a pear blossom and rushed into the sky. When this cloud appeared, not only did it illuminate the surrounding tens of feet, it also caused thousands of pillars of vast chi to crash down. Woo! The cloud let out a trembling sound. In an instant, it expanded, and the five-colored pear blossom could be seen. It looked very lifelike. Go! Taibai Jingxing opened his mouth and blew. A gust of golden chi fell into the five-colored pear blossom. The cloud rolled and rushed into the light shadow formed by the rolling light shadow. When the cloud fell into the light shadow, it crashed into the mirror. Boom! The sound of thunder suddenly rang out. Strands of lightning appeared on the uneven surface of the mirror. Then the entire surface of the mirror shone brightly. When the mirror flipped again, a faint golden pillar of light flickered a few times before crashing down. It was precisely the two Zhenkongs. How is this possible? After the thunderous roar, there was a deathly silence. However, Zhen Han's cry of surprise came at an untimely moment. It's actually 2 fire apes? Under the pillar of light, the 2 Jinkongs revealed their true demonic appearance. Within the flames that were thousands of feet in size, the 2 fire apes revealed their ferocious faces. 2 sharp fangs protruded from their bloody mouths, and a pair of blood-red eyes were filled with ferocity. After Zhenhan's cry of surprise, she immediately came to her senses and hurriedly said in a low voice, "This junior knows her mistake." Then she lowered her head with confusion in her heart. After all, no one knew the origin of the Zhenkongs. Now that 2 identical fire apes had appeared, how could the mastermind behind this be ordinary? Tai Bai Jinxing let out a cold snort, and a 5-colored light appeared in his eyes. Within the 5-colored light, inscriptions that were even smaller than ants appeared. These inscriptions quickly gathered in the 5-colored light, forming circles of light. These circles of light rotated like growth rings and slowly fell into Tai Bai Jinxing's eyes. Crack, crack, crack. The moment the circles of light touched his eyes, they immediately produced thunderbolts. These thunderbolts turned into 5-colored lightning, and turned into a net. Through this net like lightning, Tai Bai Jinxing's gaze landed on the 2 fire apes' true forms. Ah! When he saw the 2 Zhenkongs in front of him clearly, Tai Bai Jinxing was stunned. Then, as if he didn't dare to believe himself, he blinked his eyes, and the net of thunderbolts in his eyes flashed again. After half a cup of tea's worth of time, Tai Bai Jinxing closed his eyes and the 5-colored halo slowly disappeared. When Tai Bai Jinxing opened his eyes again, a strange smile appeared on his face. It seemed as if he had a card up his sleeve, but at the same time, it seemed as if he didn't know anything. Chapter 45-72. Tai Bai Jinxing raised his hand and pointed. The pillar of light on the mirror disappeared and slowly returned to his hand. Tai Bai Jinxing was not in a hurry to put away the mirror. Instead, he played with the mirror in his hand and looked at the 2 Jinkongs whose fire ape true form had completely disappeared. "Old man Tai Bai." At this moment, one of the Jinkongs spoke while the other one didn't. However, right after the first Jinkong finished speaking, the second Jinkong also shouted, "Can you tell who is real and who is fake?" "Of course I can." Tai Bai Jinxing seemed to have made a decision, and replied with a smile. "Speak, speak," the 2 Jinkongs shouted together. "Who is real and who is fake?" "Both of you are real and fake," Tai Bai Jinxing replied with a double meaning. "Bullshit," one Jinkong said angrily. "Since you can tell, why don't you dare to say it? Could it be, this is a scheme set up by your immortal palace?" The other Jinkong also laughed and said, "Old man Tai Bai, if you can't tell, then just admit it. Why are you deliberately mystifying things here? I heard that Immortal Palace's immortal Emperor Go Chun has a clear sky mirror that can search the entire world. Presumably, that thing can tell who is the real Jinkong. When His Majesty Immortal Emperor Go Yi makes a move, I can see it clearly," Tai Bai Jinxing said proudly. "If that is the case, Lord Tai Bai Jinxing," one Jinkong could not help but plead. "Tell me, who is the real Jinkong? If I am the real one, then why didn't I kill that guy? This old man has already said that the 2 of you are both real and fake." Tai Bai Jinxing sneered. "Thundersound Temple actually did this in Hidden Immortal Continent. I don't know what their intentions are. If that is the case, then why should I expose them? Let them deal with it themselves." Damn it, that Jinkong shouted. "In this world it is either real or fake. How can there be real and fake? I am the real Jinkong. How can he be the real Jinkong? Truth and falsehood, falsehood and falsehood. In your mouth, it's actually so profound. The heavens still exist." That's right. The other Jinkong also mocked. "Since you know the truth, why don't you say it? It will also let us know who is the true Confucian scripture master." Sun Lei Tai Bai Jinxing completely ignored the 2 Jinkongs and ordered, "Take 4 patrol officers with you and protect Chuanzong well. Don't let anything go wrong." "This subordinate understands," one of the patrol envoys replied and flew down to the thatched cottage with 4 other patrol envoys. At this moment, one of them, Jinkong, was no longer as impatient as before. He looked on coldly without saying a word. Sun Hong Tai Bai Jinxing ordered, "Send a message and ask the Thunder Temple's guardian Heavenly King and Nama Wise Munjishri to come back." Tai Bai Jinxing enunciated the word "please" very loudly, as if he was angry. Yes. One of the patrol envoys replied, and was about to take out a communication object from his waist. At this moment, Taibai Jinxing rolled his eyes and said with a smile, Nama Wise Manjushri is a famous bodhisattva of the Thunder Temple. If he doesn't come back after receiving the message, our immortal palace will be guilty of disrespect. Forget it. Sun Hong, go and ask them. I believe they won't be in a hurry to return to the Thunder Temple. Yes, my lord. Sun Hong agreed, and thousands of lights and shadows appeared around her. These lights and shadows twisted and extended toward the East Sea along with the great pillar of Qi. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Seeing Sun Hong fly away, the two Jinkongs shouted in irritation and waved their magic wands. I'll beat you to death, you damned imposter. Crackle crackle, the two Jinkongs began to fight again. However, because there were several inspectors in the sky who had sealed the space, the two Jinkongs could only fight at an altitude of several thousand feet. They could no longer freely descend. Ba, seeing the 5 patrol envoys descending and protecting the thatched cottage, Chunzong hurriedly walked out of the thatched cottage and bowed. This poor monk has something important to tell you. Sun Lei didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly descended and returned the greeting. Master, are you hungry? I'll immediately ask the Earth Lord to bring some vegetarian food here. Ba, this poor monk is talking about the two Jinkongs. Chunzong pulled Mao Chao and said, this child can tell who is this poor monk's true disciple. Ah, how is that possible? Sun Lei was shocked. These two fire apes look exactly the same, and their divine abilities are also the same. Even I can't tell them apart. How can this little girl of the mortal realm tell them apart? Ba, I'm ashamed to say this. A bitter expression appeared on Chunzang's face. He said, it's this poor monk's fault. My disciple Zhang Kong accidentally killed Mao Chao's parents in order to subdue demons and devils. Sigh. Ba. Sun Lei seemed to have understood and said softly, the power of hatred is too strong. Master, please wait for a moment. After a while, Sun Lei returned and said softly, Lord Taibai Jinxing already knows about this. Master, you don't have to care about this matter. We'll know in a while. Chunzong was puzzled. However, he knew that he was just a mortal. He put his palms together and said, Ba, then I'll have to trouble you benefactors. Then, Chunzong brought Mao Chao back to the thatched cottage, and waited for the truth to come out. After about an hour, the two Jinkongs were tired. Just as they were about to stop, a Buddhist light appeared in the distant sky and the sea. Amidst the chanting of sutras, a Buddhist cloud seemed to be moving slowly, but it flew quickly without leaving a trace. It appeared in front of everyone's eyes and immediately appeared in front of them. A mocking look appeared in Taibai Jinxing's eyes as he nodded slightly at the inspectors. As the inspectors nodded, they raised their hands and waved. Hundreds of inscription chains appeared and sealed off the space within a few thousand feet. No one could see what was going on inside. Then, Taibai Jinxing waved the horsetail whisk in his hand and teleported to the front. He raised his hand and saluted. Greetings, Manjushri. We've only parted for a few hours. Now, I have to trouble Manjushri to come back. I'm really sorry. Manjushri smiled and hurriedly returned the salute. Benefactor, you're too polite. We're all waiting for the Sutra of Nirvana to be completed successfully. It's nothing for me to fly back and forth a few times. I just don't know. Benefactor, do you have something important to say? Saying this, Manjushri looked at the sealed space and was puzzled. Behind him, several heavenly guardians of the Buddhist sect also glared at the inspectors and finally fixed their eyes on Sun Hong. Sun Hong shrugged and flew to Taibai Jinxing's side. He only said that Taibai Jinxing had something important to say. He didn't mention anything about the two Jinkongs. Bodhisattva, you really don't know? Taibai Jinxing smiled again and asked meaningfully. Manjushri shook his head. I really don't know what you have to say. Please say it clearly. Bodhisattva Taibai Jinxing frowned and said unhappily, the matter has already come to this point. Why are you still hiding it? I've already found something strange. If I say it out, Mahavairakana World Venerable's face will not look good. Benefactor Manjushri was even more puzzled. He raised his hand and pointed at the sealed space. I really don't understand. Is it the strange thing that Shurjin said? Indeed. Tai Jinxing saw Manjushri's reaction and felt a little nervous. After answering, he asked tentatively, Bodhisattva really doesn't know what's inside? I really don't know. Please enlighten me. Manjushri nodded and answered. Okay. Tai Jinxing smiled faintly and ordered. Open the space and invite Manjushri Bodhisattva to take a look. Yes. Everyone nodded and waved their hands. All the inscription chains were withdrawn, revealing the two Zhenkongs in the space. Ah. Manjushri was shocked. Why are there two Zhenkongs? Yes. Tai Jinxing smiled. There are two Zhenkongs. That's why I don't know which one to choose. I specially invite Manjushri Bodhisattva to guide me. Bodhisattva. The two Zhenkongs immediately jumped out of the space and flew to Manjushri Bodhisattva. They bowed and said, Zhenkongs greet Bodhisattva. Unfortunately, after saying one sentence, the two Zhenkongs shouted again, I am the real Zhenkongs. He is the fake Zhenkongs. You are the fake Zhenkongs. I am the real Zhenkongs. The other Zhenkongs shouted with the same voice. Roar as he spoke, the two Zhenkongs roared and started fighting again. Manjushri Bodhisattva frowned and put his palms together. He asked Amitba, Benefactor, which one is the real Zhenkongs? I can't tell. Tai Jinxing smiled. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked Bodhisattva to return. Benefactor, didn't you find something fishy? Manjushri Bodhisattva said unhappily. Fishy is fishy. The truth is the truth. Tai Jinxing smiled and said, I can only find something fishy. As for the truth, I'm afraid only the Buddhist faction can find it. Hearing this, Manjushri Bodhisattva understood and said, Amitba, Benefactor, you are overthinking. There must be some misunderstanding. My Lane Temple has always done things openly. It is impossible for us to do anything behind the scenes. Moreover, Chuanzong just brought his disciple back to the hidden immortal mainland. How could my Lane Temple do something so obvious? This fake Zhenkongs must be from the demon race. Although Manjushri Bodhisattva said firmly, Tai Jinxing was still skeptical. He nodded and said, Bodhisattva, I can believe in the world venerable. But these two Zhenkongs. Bodhisattva, please use your divine power and we will know. Chapter 45-73. Amitba. Manjushri nodded slightly and raised his hand without hesitation. Swoosh, a spot of Buddha's light appeared out of thin air and quickly spread below Manjushri. In the blink of an eye, it covered the space where the two Zhenkongs were fighting. As the Buddha's light fell, countless Sanskrit chants were heard and the sky was covered. The Sanskrit chants were blocked and the Sanskrit chants fell into the ears of the two Zhenkongs. It was so painful that the two Zhenkongs threw away their magic wands and covered their ears with their hands. They rolled in the air in pain. Then, Manjushri raised his foot and stepped on the Buddha's light. In the ripples of the Buddha's light, there were countless phantoms. In the phantoms, there were heavenly dragons, Buddhist kingdoms, and thousands of men and women. The phantoms fell on the two Zhenkongs, and an indescribable color appeared. The color faded and disappeared in the Buddha's light. Only two black and white fire apes were left in the space. Amitba Manjushri was surprised. He looked at Tai Jinxing and asked curiously, How is that possible? Are they really two fire apes that look exactly the same? Bodhisattva, you've underestimated the power of that monster. Tai Jinxing smiled and said, If the ordinary heavenly feet could see through his true appearance, why did you send me here? These inspectors from the Immortal Palace could kill the fake Zhenkongs. I understand. Manjushri already understood what Tai Jinxing meant. He nodded and used his right hand to pinch flower pinching finger. He pointed at the light behind his head. 2 drops of golden light flew out from the light. Behind the golden light, there were tens of thousands of strands of faith. Swoosh, the 2 drops of golden light fell slowly. Wherever they passed, the void collapsed. Countless Buddhist kingdoms were hidden in the Buddha's light. However, after the Buddha's light passed by, the Buddhist kingdoms were annihilated. Indescribable waves came out from the annihilation and fell on the 2 black and white fire apes. When the 2 drops of golden light fell, the 2 fire apes emitted Buddha's light again. It was so bright that even Tai Jinxing couldn't see what was going on inside. However, Tai Jinxing heard Manjushri exclaim, How? How is this possible? Amitabha. Along with Manjushri's scream, there were many strange phenomena in the sky. Flowers fell from the void, and countless chanting sounds came from the void. Rays of Buddha's light condensed into crystal objects as thick as a child's arm, and fell into the light behind Manjushri's head. As the Buddha's light and flowers fell, Manjushri's golden body became bigger and bigger, and the light became more and more dazzling. Great wish fulfilled. Taibai Jinxing was even more surprised. He didn't understand what a fake Shen Kong had to do with Manjushri Bodhisattva's great wish. However, there was more than surprise in his eyes. At this moment, within the Thunderclap Temple, the 10,000 Buddhas were listening to his lecture. Suddenly, the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord, whose mouth was blooming with Buddhist lotuses, shuddered, and Buddhist lights radiated from his body. Countless heavenly flowers fell from the sky of the Thunderclap Temple and bloomed in front of the Lord. Namo Amitabha. As the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord chanted, he turned to look at the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord, who had his eyes closed, and transmitted his voice to him. Senior apprentice brother, did you sense it? Amitabha, Lord of the world, I saw it. The Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord opened his eyes and replied with a neutral expression. Ananda has appeared. Sigh, now that he has appeared, the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord sighed and said, it's still too late. Amitabha, it's still too late, and it's still too early. It doesn't matter if it's sooner or later. The Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord said and closed his eyes again. The Mahavairakana Buddha Lord didn't stop transmitting his voice to the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord. The Thunderclap Temple was still filled with heavenly flowers, and no one knew what had happened. Only the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord, who had concealed himself within the void, frowned slightly, as if he was about to wake up from his meditation. Looking at the shore of the East Sea, the Manjushri Bodhisattva's scream faded away, and the Buddhist lights disappeared. The phenomenon of great wish fulfilled also disappeared instantly. The Manjushri Bodhisattva retracted his foot from the air. With a puzzled expression, his gaze landed on Zhen Kong. How is it? Seeing that the Manjushri Bodhisattva's surprise didn't seem to be fake, Taibai Jinxing smiled and asked, isn't this a little strange? This mystery. Should the Thunderclap Temple be the one to uncover it? Amitabha, the Manjushri Bodhisattva chanted and said, Benefactor, it's a long story. However, I can swear on the name of Buddha that I don't know about this, and the Thunderclap Temple doesn't know about this either. Then, Bodhisattva, what should we do? Taibai Jinxing pushed the decision to the Manjushri Bodhisattva. However, the Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't hesitate at all and said, I can't make the decision. I still have to return to the Thunderclap Temple and kowtow to the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord. No way. Taibai Jinxing was surprised. It's that serious. It's that serious. The Manjushri Bodhisattva affirmed. Bodhisattva. Before Taibai Jinxing could say anything, Shen Kong shouted, with your abilities you should know who's real and who's fake, right? The Manjushri Bodhisattva was a little troubled. After a while he replied, Amitabha, real is fake, fake is real. When real is fake, the fake is real. Although I can see through it, I can't see through it. What can I do? Bullshit. This Shen Kong scolded. One is an important minister of the Immortal Palace, the other is a bodhisattva of the Buddhist sect. Both of them can see who's real and who's fake. However, neither of them dares to admit it. One of them says real is fake is real. The other says real is fake is real. Then you tell me who's real and who's fake. That's right, Taibai Jinxing nodded and said, real is fake is real. The Manjushri Bodhisattva also shook his head and said, you are wrong. Real is fake is real. Heavens, at this moment, Shen Kong still didn't dare to call him master. He could only throw himself into the air, and cried with tears streaming down his face. In this world, what kind of justice is there? Even the immortal and Buddhist sects don't dare to say the truth. I really don't know. In this world, how can there be such a clear distinction between black and white? Seeing Zhen Kong, the Manjushri Bodhisattva felt much better. He chanted and said, Amitabha, Shen Kong, there is no need for you to say any more. When we reach the Lane Temple, the truth will naturally be revealed. That's right, you fake. Why are you crying here? When we reach the Lane Temple, in front of my Buddha, Everything will be revealed. The other Zhenkong stood in the air and sneered. You fake. Zhenkong was furious. He waved his magic wand and pounced towards the other Zhenkong. The other Zhenkong also said angrily, You are the fake. With that, the two Zhenkongs started fighting again. Amitabha the Manjushri Bodhisattva chanted and waved his kasaya, capturing the two Zhenkongs in the air. He turned his head and said to Taibai Jinxing, I will have to trouble benefactor to stay here. I will be back soon. Take care, take care. Taibai Jinxing knew the importance of this matter. He cupped his hands and said, With this old man here to protect Chuanzong, nothing will happen. Just as he said that, woo-woo, a gust of evil wind blew. In the East Sea, a huge pig demon flew out from the sea and flew towards them. This pig demon was naturally Zhenjia. He scanned with his essence will and immediately realized that something was wrong. He blocked the Manjushri Bodhisattva and the other heavenly guardians. He shouted, Isn't this Manjushri Bodhisattva? Why do you have the time to come here from the Lane Temple? Could it be that you saw that we have been working hard in the sutra-seeking state of bliss and wanted to invite us to have a vegetarian meal? Amitabha facing Zhenjia, who was stronger than him, the Manjushri Bodhisattva stopped. He clasped his hands together and said, The sutra-seeking state of bliss is in trouble. I am here to subdue this demon. This demon is of great importance. I cannot make the decision. I can only bring them back to the Lane Temple and ask Mahavairakana of the world to personally issue a Buddhist decree. Damn it! Hearing that the sutra-seeking state of bliss was in trouble, Zhenjia immediately jumped up and said, Who did this? 3 monster kings just came. I fought them off with great difficulty. I chased them for several days to find out their background, but they still ran away. I didn't expect that they would create a diversion. Oh, by the way, Bodhisattva, how is my master? Chuanzong is fine. Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't dare to say more as he was afraid that Zhenjia would cause trouble. He said hurriedly, He is now under the protection of Taibai Jinxing, the inspector and the 4 seasons meritorious ministers of the Immortal Palace. He is very safe. I won't talk more with you. Go and protect Chuanzong now. Yes, Bodhisattva. Seeing that the Manjushri Bodhisattva was anxious, Zhenjia didn't dare to say more. He bowed and watched the Manjushri Bodhisattva leave. However, after flying for a few miles, Zhenjia suddenly shouted, Bodhisattva, tell Mahavairakana of the world not to cause any trouble. Fighting and killing every day. You don't look like a monk at all. Manjushri Bodhisattva's body swayed in the air. He said a few words to the Guardian King, and then turned into Buddha's light and left. When the Manjushri Bodhisattva couldn't see him anymore, Zhenjia stuck out his tongue and shouted, Oh my! What happened? Even the Manjushri Bodhisattva came. I have to go and take a look. I don't want my master to know that I sneaked out to sleep. When Zhenjia came back, the inspector and the 4 seasons meritorious ministers were relieved and didn't dare to stop him. After Zhenjia greeted Taibai Jinxing, they put him into the thatched cottage. Seeing that Zhenhan and the dragon horse Shinfeng were outside the thatched cottage, and that Cao Cao and Chuanzong were inside the cottage, Zhenjia was immediately angry and shouted, Master, where did that damn fire ape go? I was just chasing after the 3 demon kings. How dare he neglect his duty and cause Master to suffer such a great fright? Chapter 45-74. Amitabha, Zhenjia. Don't worry. Chuanzong knew that Nama wise Manjushri had taken away the 2 Zhenkongs, so he was relieved and said, Wait for me to tell you what happened, okay? Please tell me, Master. Zhenjia listened, and sat down on the ground again. His shrunken body still looked clumsy. After Chuanzong told him about the real and fake Zhenkong, Zhenjia jumped up from the ground and shouted, How is this possible? There's a fire ape that looks exactly like Zhenkong? Even Taibai Jinxing and Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri couldn't tell the difference? That's how it should be. Chuanzong was naturally kept in the dark. He pointed at Chang Chao and said, Chang Chao can tell. So I told you to wait until you came back, Sai Master. Those 3 demon kings are really powerful. Zhenjia quickly denied responsibility and said, I chased them for a long time but couldn't catch up to them. I'm sorry for making you suffer. Amitabha, it doesn't matter if I suffer or not. Chuanzong replied, Just don't let Zhenkong suffer. Although he's a bit cruel and lacks the compassion of a Buddhist disciple, he's doing it for my own good. I'd rather suffer in his place. Don't worry, Master. Zhenjie waved his hand and said, this matter has been brought up to Vairocana, revered Buddha. He'll definitely clear second junior brother's name. That's for the best. Chunzong nodded, but then he became worried and said, however, I'm still worried. What are you worried about, Master? Zhenjie smiled and said, in the 3 continents, other than Zhenjie glanced at the sky and lowered his voice, other than immortal Emperor Gochun and the great saints of the Great Sacred Hall, who else can be stronger than Vairocana, revered Buddha? I hope so. Chunzong nodded and looked at Chang Chao, saying, Chang Chao is hungry. Zhenjie, go get some vegetarian food and come back. Yes, Master. Zhenjie replied. Then he turned around and shouted, Gong Chao of the 4 Seasons, quickly come out. Hearing Zhenjie's shout, Gong Chao hesitated and glanced at Taibai Jinxing, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky. Boom! Suddenly, Gong Chao felt a sharp pain in his head, as if 10,000 horses were trampling over him. His body fell from the sky involuntarily, and Zhenjie's cold snort was heard amidst the thundering hooves. I'm calling you, where are you looking? Yes, the Gong Chao of the 4 Seasons didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly landed and bowed. Grandmaster, what are your orders? Taibai Jinxing sat cross-legged in midair with his eyes closed as if he had not seen anything. After all, this was a demonic beast that was on the verge of reaching the 9th grade of essence force. Even someone as powerful as Taibai Jinxing did not want to bother with him. My master is hungry. Hurry up and go beg for alms. Zhenjie ordered. Oh, the Temple of the 4 Seasons paused and looked around. There were indeed a few patrol envoys standing guard at the side of the thatched cottage. They could only respond and move into the distance. This matter is a little strange. Zhenjie took out a strand of seaweed from somewhere and held it in his mouth. He lay down, crossed his legs, and shook his trotters. He looked at the roof of the thatched cottage and thought to himself, there's actually a demonic beast that can transform into a fire ape. What is this demonic beast trying to do? Could it be that he wants to replace Zhen Kong? Damn it, if it was Zhen Han or Zhen Feng, I wouldn't care. But this is Zhen Kong, and Daoist Xiao mentioned him before. If anything happens to Zhen Kong, Daoist Xiao will skin me alive. But it's fine. Now, everything will be handed over to Mahavairakana. I'm sure Daoist Xiao won't blame me when he finds out. While Zhenjie was worried, Nama Wise Manjushri raised his hand and pointed at the light behind his head. A Buddhist light gushed out from the light and surged into the void. The void was torn apart layer by layer. As the void overlapped, a majestic Lane temple with overflowing Buddhist light vaguely appeared in the void. As soon as the Buddhist light fell into the Lane temple, the void immediately collapsed and everything disappeared. A teleportation channel condensed from Buddhist light appeared under Nama Wise Manjushri's feet. Amit Ba. Nama Wise Manjushri looked at the Buddhist light condensed into golden runes that flowed around the channel like tadpoles. He chanted Buddhist names and stepped on the channel. Woo-woo, a strange wind whistled in the space around the channel. Nama Wise Manjushri's figure disappeared into the channel, and the channel also disappeared into the void. Revered one in the Lane temple, Mahavairakana was still chanting. Amidst the heavenly flowers, the guardian heavenly king reported, Namo Wise Manjushri has an important matter to report. Namo Amitba. Mahavairakana's face showed mercy. He closed his mouth and said, Buddhism is fate. My Buddha will not help those who are not fated. Dharma is also fate. Dharma will not be taught to those who are not fated. Today's chanting ends here. Amitba. Disciples thank revered one for your teachings. 10,000 Buddhas chanted Buddhist names and bowed. Summon Manjushri. Mahavairakana's eyebrows did not raise as he ordered lightly. Nama Wise Manjushri flew into the Lane temple and hurriedly bowed. Disciple greets revered one. Amitba. Mahavairakana smiled. Is the handover of the East Sea smooth? The sutra seeking extreme bliss is coming to an end. I think the immortal palace will also pay attention to it. Revered one. Nama Wise Manjushri thought for a moment and replied, the handover of the sutra seeking extreme bliss went very smoothly. Disciple and the guardian heavenly king handed everything over to Taibai Jinxing and the many inspectors. Very good. Mahavairocana nodded. Since that's the case, Manjushri, is there anything urgent that made you rush back to the Lane Temple? Namal-wise Manjushri looked at the Buddhas in the Lane Temple and pondered for a moment. Then he told Revered One about the real and fake Zhenkong. Finally he said, Revered One, please no. Disciple, can't make a decision. That's why I brought both Zhenkong here. Revered One, please make a decision. Oh. Mahavairocana's curiosity was piqued and he asked, I've seen this Zhenkong before. He's only a fire ape with 4th grade elemental energy, who would transform into his appearance and impersonate him. Moreover, he's a demon with 4th grade elemental energy. Can't you tell? At this point, the Mahavairocana revered Buddha's gaze froze. Then the mirror behind his head suddenly spun rapidly. In an instant, countless pillars of Buddhist light rushed into the void. The Mahavairocana revered Buddha said mercifully, I understand now. Invite the 2 Zhenkongs out. Yes, Revered One. Namal-wise Manjushri did not dare to delay. He swung his kasaya and the 2 Zhenkong fell out. The 2 Zhenkong landed. When they looked around, tears welled up in their eyes. They knelt in front of the 9-grade lotus platform and said, Revered One, disciple has escorted Chuanzong's master to seek the sutra in nirvana and experience countless difficulties. Now we've just left the Eastern Sea territory and entered the hidden immortal continent. I never expected that there would be a daring demon who dared to disguise himself as disciple and tried to steal disciple's merit of seeking the sutra. Although Taibai Jinxing and Manjushri Bodhisattva could see clearly, they did not dare to make a rash judgment. They only said what was real and what was fake was real. These disciples did not understand. Now disciple has rushed to the front of Revered One. I hope that Revered One can uphold justice for disciple and clear disciple's name. Venerable Manjushri, do you know why you can't make a decision? Mahavairocana's Revered One asked with a smile. Namal-wise Manjushri was startled. He hurriedly bowed and said, Revered One, please enlighten me. Although you are knowledgeable in Buddhism, you don't understand cause and effect. You only know how to do things, but you don't know the cause and effect of things. Mahavairocana's Revered One replied indifferently. Do you not know the cause of the sutra in nirvana? Do you not know the cause of your great ambition? First, there was the matter of seeking the sutra. Then there was the person seeking the sutra. Do you know who is real and who is fake? Namal-wise Manjushri revealed a smile and nodded. Disciple understands. The cause is real and the effect is fake. The cause is real and the effect is fake. Then who do you think is real and who is fake? Mahavairocana's Revered One asked with a smile. Naturally, this Zhenkong is fake. With that, Namal-wise Manjushri pointed at one of the Zhenkong and said seriously. That Zhenkong shouted and jumped up. He said furiously, Bullshit Bodhisattva. How can you reverse black and white? I'm the real Zhenkong, he's the fake Zhenkong. Amitba Zhenkong, you're real and fake. Do you know? Mahavairocana's Revered One chuckled. I don't want to listen. I don't want to listen. I don't want to listen. Zhenkong waved his hand impatiently and said, I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you baldies. I'm going to find someone who understands. Someone who understands can be the judge for me. With that, Zhenkong moved his body and was about to fly away. The other Zhenkong laughed and pointed at that Zhenkong and said, See, I already said that you're fake and you're still trying to be brave. Where can you go now? Who can help you? Damn it. You fake. When that Zhenkong saw that Zhenkong mocked him, he was already furious. Seeing that he had nowhere to run, he waved his magic wand and smashed it at the other Zhenkong. You dare to show killing intent in front of Buddha, and you still say that you're not the fake Zhenkong? That Zhenkong was not afraid at all. He looked on as the magic wand fell and said, You're not worthy of sutra-seeking nirvana. Amitba Mahavairocana's Revered One chanted and pointed his finger. That Zhenkong's magic wand fell to the ground, and he was unable to move. Compassion appeared in the eyes of Mahavairocana's Revered One and he said, Zhenkong, don't be anxious. Listen to this seat's explanation. When you understand, you'll know why you're fake and he's real. Chapter 45-75. Smack before the Mahavairocana Revered Buddha could finish his words, Zhenkong waved his magic wand and hit Zhenkong's head. Under the magic wand, this Zhenkong couldn't move. He was glaring at the Mahavairocana revered Buddha, but he didn't expect Zheng Kong to suddenly attack. He didn't have the strength to fight back at all. Seeing the magic wand coming at him like a huge mountain, this Zheng Kong's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. In the blink of an eye, thousands of lights and shadows flashed before his eyes. There were humans and monsters that he had eaten alive, humans that he had burned to death with his flames, and even monsters that he had killed with his magic wand. In the end, all the lights and shadows converged to form Xiaohua's figure, an indomitable giant that stood between the heavens and the earth. Zheng Kong cried out mournfully. Master, his tone was filled with reluctance, unwillingness, awakening, and regret. However, all of his emotions were turned into nothingness under the magic wand. This Zheng Kong didn't even have the time to scream. His brain exploded, and he died in front of the rank 9 Buddhist lotus. Following that, a primordial spirit flew out from Zheng Kong's body. Zheng Kong's eyes were sharp, and he waved his magic wand again. The Mahavairocana revered Buddha cried out in alarm. He raised his hand and imprisoned Zheng Kong. He said angrily, Amitabha. Zheng Kong, how can you kill without permission? Revered one. Zheng Kong giggled. This fake disturbed the sutra-seeking extreme bliss, and wanted to take away my merits. How can I let him go? Moreover, since he dared to be so arrogant in front of the revered one, he must have something to rely on. If I don't kill him, won't I be destroying the prestige of Buddhism? Revered one, did you not hear me? This fake even called me master before he died. This so-called master must be the mastermind behind all this. A rare trace of anger appeared in the Mahavairocana revered Buddha's eyes. He stared at Zheng Kong for a few breaths of time before he said dejectedly, Amitabha. Zheng Kong, your killing intent is too strong. Although you have contributed greatly by escorting Chuanzang, you have also broken many rules. I hope that this is the last time you break the precepts. In the future, you have to take this as a warning and cultivate properly. Otherwise, the sutra praying in nirvana will be for naught in the end. As the Mahavairocana world venerable finished his words, thunderous roars sounded around the Thunder Temple. Many places in the Thunder Temple collapsed, showing signs of decline. Countless Buddhist kingdoms were rapidly annihilated, and countless men and women were wailing in pain in the annihilation. Furthermore, the Buddhist light around the Mahavairocana world venerable and the entire Thunder Temple was also declining. Billions of heavenly flowers fell from the void of the Thunder Temple. As they fell, they withered and turned into dust. Master, when Zheng Kong saw the change in the Thunder Sound Temple, he couldn't help but be shocked. When his gaze landed on the Mahavairocana revered Buddha, he was even more shocked. He couldn't help but cry out, Amitabha, the revered Buddha is. See, when Zheng Kong saw the change, so did the 10,000 Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Shocked voices sounded from all over the Thunder Sound Temple. Amitabha, excellent. Excellent. Half of the Vairocana Buddha golden body that was previously radiating light rapidly withered as the Buddha's light faded. In just a moment, it had turned into a withered grayish-black color. Although there was still some Buddha's light flowing on it, the Buddha's light was also mixed with a grayish-black color. Even in the light condensed from the power of faith behind the Mahavairocana world venerable's head, half of the light turned pitch black. Namo Amitabha. Namo Daxing Samantabhadra Bodhisattva stood before the Buddhist lotus and couldn't help but put his palms together. Revered Buddha, what's going on? My Buddha, is there a tribulation? Amitabha, tribulation is precepts. Precepts are also desires. Desires can be fate, and fate can be the result. The benevolence on the Mahavairocana world venerable's face didn't change. Then he said to Zheng Kong, Zheng Kong, do you understand? Amitabha. Zheng Kong threw away his devil wand and knelt before the 9 grades Buddhist lotus. He said respectfully, I'll remember your words, revered Buddha. From today onwards, I won't commit any more murders. I'll do my best to escort Chuanzang back to the Longevity Town and erect the golden body of the Namo Amitabha Bodhisattva on the Rivertide Ridge. Go. The Mahavairocana world venerable flicked his sleeves and said, Thank you, revered Buddha. I'll take my leave now. Zheng Kong bowed. After he stood up, he stared at the Mahavairocana world venerable's withering glory golden body for a while. Then he lowered his head and left. The guardian heavenly king brought him back to the East Sea. For a moment, the 10,000 Buddhas looked at the withered golden body of the Mahavairākana world venerable, and didn't know what to say. Senior apprentice brother the Mahavairākana world venerable asked in a low voice, "Am I wrong?" "Umitba, there's no wrong, and there's no right. There's no right or wrong in this world." The Dipankara archaic Buddha world venerable chanted, "Jinkong is wrong for being too cruel. What's wrong is, the timing of the Nirvana scripture praying was wrong." Namo Maitreya Buddha at this moment, beside the Mahavairākana world venerable, the Maitreya Buddha world venerable's golden body appeared from the void. Other than benevolence, there was also a hint of anger on his face. "World venerable, I think you're wrong." "Umitba, what wrong have I done?" The Mahavairākana world venerable raised his head. He didn't look at the Mahavairākana world venerable. Instead, he glanced at the 10,000 Buddhas and asked in a low voice. The world venerable's Buddhist mantras are well versed in the heavens and the earth. You're the number one person in our Buddhism. The Mahavairākana world venerable glanced at the 10,000 Buddhas and said, "In this world, when it comes to seeing through the mundane world and karma, I'm afraid no other Buddhas would dare to compare with the world venerable. However, even if the world venerable has reached the golden body multiple transformations, and is close to the limit, he's still a distance away from attaining the Buddha fruit. Moreover, according to my opinion, even if one's Buddha position is eternally solidified, and attains the 9 transformations golden body, one would only be the lord of a region, and the ruler of a world. Following the heavens and earth, reincarnation, and myriad eras, it still can't be compared. The so-called karma is the long river of time and space. Any cause may seem small, but the effect it causes is subtle. No one can forcefully disturb karma, not even my Buddha." The world venerable saw that the karma of this world had already been formed, yet he still had distracting thoughts and wanted to interfere with karma. "Isn't that wrong?" Umitba the Mahavairākana world venerable chanted but didn't answer. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Since the creation of the world venerable Buddhism sect, countless Buddhas have been diligently pursuing the truth of Buddhism for countless years. The Mahavairākana world venerable continued. However, our Buddhism sect is now divided into 10 sects, namely the Attainment sect, the Possession sect, the Nature sect, the Harmony sect, the Tiantai sect, the Virtuous Head sect, the Zen sect, the Pure Land sect, the Vinaya sect, and the Tantra sect. Other than these 10 sects, there are countless smaller branches. Is their Buddhism sect the same as our Buddhism truth? In this disciple's opinion, not necessarily. This disciple thinks that our Buddhism sect's disciples are now burdened by their physical bodies. They have abandoned everything in their physical bodies and don't want to farm or fish. They only rely on offerings. If we Buddhas are pure of heart and few desires, it's fine. We can make a living with simple tea and plain food. However, there aren't many Buddhas who are pure of heart. This inevitably leads to misunderstandings. This is also the fatal point of the Confucian cultivators attacking our Buddhism sect. The so-called vermin is nothing more than this. This disciple has seen the Buddhas in the hidden immortal continent where a Buddhism sect was established. They supported themselves and didn't need to solicit alms. Similarly, they could use the property of the temple to support the old, the weak, the sick, and the disabled. They really did achieve widows, and loneliness. Then Namo Maitreya Buddha spoke of his thoughts and his recent enlightenment. There was no lack of inconsistencies with the Pure Land world. Umitba, junior apprentice brother, what do you mean by this? The Mahavairākana Buddha Lord listened quietly. In the end, the Buddhas were stunned and asked again. The mistake of the Buddha Lord has already been made. Moreover, the impact is severe. The Mahavairākana Buddha Lord's gaze showed no fear. He looked at the Mahavairākana Buddha Lord and said, "This disciple feels that this mistake is detrimental to the development of our Buddhism sect in the Pure Land world. Therefore, I hope that the Mahavairākana Buddha Lord and the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord will reconsider." "Only reconsider?" asked the Mahavairākana Buddha Lord. "Our Buddhism sect's words don't lie in words. It doesn't lie in words. Junior apprentice brother has spoken for so long. I already know what he's thinking." Mahavairākana Buddha Lord, the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke. The connection between the Pure Land world and the Buddhism kingdom has been severed for a long time. Not only is the flow of karma blocked, the cycle of reincarnation is also in chaos. Junior Apprentice Brothers' Vindication. The birth of the Namo Mahavadi Samantabhadra, and the mystery of the Namo Mahavadi Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's voice of the world. All of these revealed a trace of chaos in the Buddhism kingdom. Also, the mystery of the true and false chastity is also the tip of the iceberg. With so many entanglements, let alone Junior Apprentice Brother and me, even the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord can't see clearly. Therefore, the Lord's judgment. At this point, the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord stopped. Half a teardrop flowed out of his eyes, and his originally miserable face became even more sorrowful. Whether the Buddha nature is more than the human nature, or whether the human nature is more important than the Buddha nature, our Buddhism sect has never come to a conclusion. This disciple doesn't want to be entangled with the Lord any longer. The Mahavairakana Buddha Lord's expression was calm as water. He said calmly, however, if the Buddha nature is imposed on the human nature, using one's own benefits to overpower the Buddha's benefits, then the Buddha is also a devil. Not only is my Buddha the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord's Buddha, but I'm also the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord's Buddha, and the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord's Buddha. I can't bear to see the Buddhas of the Pure Land world go astray. Junior Apprentice Brother. Are you rebelling against the Thunderclap Temple? The Mahavairakana Buddha Lord wasn't surprised at all. He said calmly, Junior Apprentice Brother, don't forget that you've only been in my Thunderclap Temple for a few years. You don't even know the secrets of my Thunderclap Temple, Lord. It doesn't matter if it's a day or a moment. If you don't realize it now, so what if it's 10,000 years? The Thunderclap Temple isn't here, nor is it far away. The Thunderclap Temple is in this disciple's heart. The Mahavairakana Buddha Lord answered, as long as this disciple stays true to his heart, where isn't the Thunderclap Temple? Chapter 4576. Junior Apprentice Brother the Dipankara archaic Buddha's tears were already dripping down. Through the void, they transformed into countless rivers and flooded countless Buddhist kingdoms. An ancient voice resounded within the Thunder Monastery. Have you decided? Not bad. The Maitreya Buddha nodded firmly. Such a Buddha is not a disciple's laying temple. Such a Buddhist sect is also not a disciple's Buddhist sect. As the future Lord Buddha, I have to think about the future. Junior Brother, do you think you can walk out of the Thunder Temple? The Dipankara archaic Buddha's World Lord's voice carried a hint of threat. All of a sudden, a commotion broke out within the Thunder Sound Temple. The Maitreya Buddha smiled and raised his hand to slap his forehead. Boom! A Buddhist cloud gushed out with a Buddhist artifact floating in the cloud. 10,000 rays of Buddhist light soared into the sky as thousands of treasures surged. 7 Wonders Tree. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's World Lord was shocked, while the myriad Buddha's expressions changed. Namo Maitreya Buddha at that moment, 30% of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas and Arhats bowed in respect. Can I walk out of the Thunder Temple, with the help of the Tree of 7 Wonders? The corners of Maitreya Buddha's mouth curled into a smile. Can this disciple use the 7 Wonders tree to spread the Buddha's light across the 3 continents? Can this disciple use the 7 Wonders tree to retrieve the distorted Buddha's light? Perhaps the Dipankara archaic Buddha remained silent. Namo Amitabha. The Mahavairakana world venerated one looked at the wonderful tree of 7 treasures that was overflowing with treasure light. His withered face was also a little stunned, but he said benevolently, Junior Brother, do you still remember the agreement we made that day? Of course I remember. Maitreya Buddha said curiously. Didn't you say that I have a heart tribulation? Disciple has cultivated a Buddhist heart and diligently cleaned the mirror. There was no demonic tribulation that came close to me. Amitabha the Mahavairakana Buddha shook his head and said, I'm talking about your actions against the Thunder Temple, not your demonic tribulation. Namo Maitreya Buddha world honored one chanted the name of Buddha. After a moment of hesitation he nodded and said, I understand. I will never do anything that goes against laying temple. However, before the revered one of the world understands, I am not willing to stay in the laying temple. I would like to bring a group of bodhisattvas to another place to cultivate. As for when to return to the Lane Temple, that will depend on when the revered one of the world can cultivate his golden body again. As he spoke, the Maitreya Buddha raised his hand and was about to take away Zhenkong's corpse and the soul entrenched in the Buddhist light. However, his hand moved and he stopped. He coldly looked at the Mahavairakana revered one and said, "Revered one, this corpse should be left as a warning to the revered one. Furthermore, this disciple would like to ask the revered one of the world to properly preserve this corpse and soul, so that he can give an account to his master in the future." What? Mahavairakana revered Buddha was suddenly stunned and asked curiously, "Isn't his master, Namo Maitreya Buddha and revered one of the world can interfere with karma? Why can't others interfere with reincarnation?" After the Maitreya Buddha finished speaking, he slowly got up. The 9-grade lotus platform below him also moved. The wonderful tree of 7 treasures above his head covered his golden body. A golden crack appeared in front of the Maitreya Buddha's head. The outline of a palace door appeared at the edge of the crack. Namo Maitreya Buddha. At this moment, a Buddhist chant resounded. Namo Maitreya Samantabhadra Bodhisattva moved his lotus platform and said, "This disciple is willing to follow Namo Maitreya Buddha to cultivate outside. Namo Maitreya Buddha. This disciple is also willing to cultivate with you at this moment." 40% of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arhats, and other Buddhas stood up and left their seats. Leaving is staying, and staying is also leaving. Cultivation has always been in the heart. The Maitreya Buddha chanted loudly and stepped into the palace door. "Junior apprentice brother, where do you want to cultivate?" the Dipankara archaic Buddha suddenly asked. "Snowy Mountain, small exquisite temple," a voice faintly resounded. Not only did the Maitreya Buddha's figure disappear, but the other Buddhas also disappeared, and the Buddhist lights were extinguished. After a while, the Mahavairakana revered Buddha's voice resounded again. "All Buddhas retreat." "Yes, revered one of the world." It was still the respectful voice of the 10,000 Buddhas. However, this voice was much fainter and weaker, just like the withered heavenly flowers in the Thunder Sound Temple. "Revered Buddha," the Dipankara archaic Buddha's voice resounded amidst the bleakness. "I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I still couldn't figure out why the Maitreya Buddha's revered Buddha would have a heart tribulation. Previously, I thought that he had recklessly attained enlightenment, causing his foundation to be unstable. However, I didn't expect that the cause was actually Ananda." "Yes, the Mahavairakana revered Buddha's mouth was filled with bitterness as he answered. "I didn't expect it either." "Then who's Zhenkong's master?" the Dipankara archaic Buddha asked as he looked at Zhenkong's corpse and soul. The Mahavairakana revered Buddha answered plainly, "Senior apprentice brother, why do you need me to say it? Don't tell me you don't know." "Sigh, who else could it be other than Taoist Shao, who has no origin and whose karma can't be detected?" The Dipankara archaic Buddha sighed and said, "This time Ananda is in trouble. Since the revered Buddha is involved in this karma, he can't just ignore it." Fortunately, the Mahavairakana revered Buddha nodded slightly and said, "Although the Fortune Gate's disciples have cleansed the heaven and earth board, and the immortal palace's feathers have perished in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, Xiaohua is only a human Mahayana realm essence Chi mid-stage 9th grade. He's still not enough to threaten my Thunder Sound Temple. Although the Maitreya Buddha has betrayed the Thunder Sound Temple, he still has the Thunder Sound Temple in his heart. Revered Buddha, you can't ignore his words," the Dipankara archaic Buddha advised. "Revered Buddha, you still have to think about how to resolve this sudden karma." "Namo Amitabha. I understand." The Mahavairakana revered Buddha nodded and raised his finger. A 5-colored crystal flew out from the Buddha lotus and landed on Zhenkong's soul. The soul struggled unyieldingly for a while before slowly falling into the crystal. Then, it was kept by the Mahavairakana revered Buddha's lotus platform. As for the corpse, the Mahavairakana revered Buddha also kept it into his lotus platform after some consideration. Seeing that the Mahavairakana revered Buddha had already made up his mind, the Dipankara archaic Buddha was originally very calm. However, he suddenly felt a slight change in the Thunder Sound Temple's karmic cycle. He couldn't help but look at the Mahavairakana revered Buddha in surprise, and wanted to ask about it. However, before the Dipankara archaic Buddha could speak, The Mahavairocana revered Buddha calmly said, "Don't let others know. Silence is golden." Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. Namo Amitba. Namo Amitba. A hint of surprise flashed across the Dipankara Archaic Buddha's face. He put his palms together and chanted 3 Buddha names in a row. So that's how it is. Namo Amitba's betrayal of the Thunder Sound Temple was something that had never happened in the Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss. However, the Thunder Sound Temple remained as silent as ever, as if it hadn't moved at all. When the Mahavairocana revered Buddha forcefully interfered with the karmic cycle and caused the Thunder Sound Temple's Buddha lights to fall, Chunzong, who was sitting cross-legged in a dilapidated thatched cottage by the East Sea, suddenly opened his eyes. Within his clear eyes, an extremely dim Buddha light suddenly appeared. As the Buddha light flashed by, Chunzong closed his eyes as well. However, within Chunzang's Niwen Palace, boundless Buddha light appeared out of nowhere and illuminated the entire Niwen Palace. Within the Buddha light, the golden radiance that was previously hidden within Chunzang's Niwen Palace appeared with a whoosh. Within the golden radiance, the silhouette of another Buddha Lord's golden statue appeared. As soon as this golden statue appeared, it was already 9 feet tall. Moreover, below the 9 feet tall statue was a 9-grade lotus platform. Behind its head, a faint radiance flickered. These were the signs of the Buddha Lord's initial formation. Namo Amitba shock appeared on Chunzang's face as he silently chanted Buddha's name in his heart. He sighed inwardly. Could it be that the message left within the golden radiance is real? However, I really don't know what exactly happened in the Thunder Sound Temple. Is this change a blessing or a tragedy? Is it a blessing or a curse? After an unknown period of time, a low voice could be heard outside the thatched cottage. "Master, I'm back." Oh. Hearing this familiar voice, Chunzang's face lit up with joy. He hurriedly got up from the ground and walked out of the thatched cottage. Outside the cottage, the sky was bright. Zhen Kong was still standing arrogantly in the distance. However, at this moment, there was an additional layer of joy on his face from surviving a calamity. In front of him, Zhenjie frowned and sized up Zhen Kong. He didn't allow him to approach the thatched cottage. After Zhenjie left, Dragon Horse Zhenfeng and Zhenhan also hid far away, secretly on guard. Tai Bai Jinxing and the other people from the Immortal Palace were long gone. Clearly, they had already left when the Thunder Sound Temple's Guardian King sent Zhen Kong back. Zhen Kong, what happened in the Thunder Sound Temple? Chunzong was somewhat anxious. He took a few steps forward and asked. Zhenjie raised his hand and blocked Chunzong. He said, "Master, wait a moment. I keep feeling that there's something wrong with this Zhen Kong. However, I can't see anything wrong with him. Let the grass come out and take a look." "Oh, what's wrong?" Chunzong was startled. He looked at Zhen Kong and asked curiously. 2 Zhen Kongs went to the Thunder Sound Temple and 1 returned. This is naturally the real Zhen Kong. Mahavairocana world-revered Buddha is perceptive. How can he not see which one is real and which one is fake? "Eldest martial brother, don't worry," Zhen Kong said loudly. "That fake Zhen Kong was already killed by me on the spot." Zhen Kong's voice was extremely loud. It had already traveled into the thatched cottage. "Sigh," Zhen Kong Chunzong grumbled. "Why did you break the vow to kill again?" Although that fake Zhen Kong was of the demon race, and also interfered with our sutra-seeking extreme bliss, it was also a type of merit. Perhaps he deserved to die, but you didn't have the authority to kill him. Since you broke the vow to kill, wouldn't you lose merit? What I told you before you. Why didn't you listen to me? Chapter 4577. Amitba. Zhen Kong threw down his magic wand and prostrated himself on the ground. "Master, you are right. This is what Mahavairocana said in Lane Temple. It is because disciple committed too many murders that I attracted the demonic tribulation. That fake Zhen Kong is the manifestation of disciple's inner demon. By killing the fake Zhen Kong, disciple will be killing my inner demon. Disciple has also said in front of revered one that from today onwards, disciple will not dare to recklessly kill." Excellent, excellent. There is a saying in the secular world that a prodigal who repents is more precious than gold. Zhen Kong, if you can really change, then Master's nagging for so many years was not in vain. Chunzong was overjoyed when he heard this and took a few steps forward. Damn it, Zhenhan. Zhen Jie said angrily. Did you not hear? Hurry up and call Chang Chao out. Yes, yes, eldest senior brother. Seeing Zhen Jie, who even Tai Bai Jinxing did not want to provoke, Zhenhan hurriedly floated to the front of the straw hut. As he walked in, he called out, Master, don't be anxious. Ba. Chunzeng smiled and stood still. He looked at Zhen Kong, who had his head lowered, and said with a smile, Master believes that this is the real Zhen Kong. Chang Chao rubbed his eyes as he was dragged out of the straw hut by Zhenhan. He looked around in confusion. Zhen Jie squeezed out a smile that he thought was amiable and asked, Chang Chao, you said before that you can differentiate between the real Zhen Kong and the fake Zhen Kong. To be honest, I do not believe those people from Lane Temple. I am afraid that they are trying to deceive Master. I believe that you also do not wish for a demon to harm Master. Can you see if this Zhen Kong is the real Zhen Kong? All right. Chang Chao's eyes flashed, and he nodded vigorously at Zhen Jie, before looking at Zhen Kong, who was prostrating on the ground. Zhen Kong, Zhen Jie yelled. Raise your head and let the grass see if you are the real Zhen Kong. Ai, eldest senior brother. Zhen Kong said and raised his head. This little brother is Zhen Kong. I can even recognize Lane Temple's Mahavairakana revered one. You. Zhuo Chao trembled when he saw Zhen Kong lifting his head. His eyes were filled with fear as he instinctively dodged towards Chunzong. Chuanzong took a look inside. Zhen Jie, there is no need to look anymore. This is the real Zhen Kong. Zhen Jie had already asked Yarrow Grass before. Now that he saw Yarrow Grass's fear and tightly clenched hands, how could he not know that this was the hatred in Yarrow Grass's heart? However, he still restrained his temper and asked, Chao Chao, you don't have to be afraid. If he is the fake Zhen Kong, I can kill him with my rake. If he really is Zhen Kong, you just nod your head. Chang Chao stared at Zhen Kong. After a while, he nodded gently and hid his face in Chunzang's chest. Tears flowed from his eyes, and the hatred in his eyes slowly turned into relief. Zhen Kong's expression also relaxed. He looked at Zhen Jie and said, Eldest senior brother, you can rest assured now, right? Humph, of course I can't rest assured. Zhen Jie raises its hoof and slaps down on Zhen Kong's shoulder. Zhen Kong doesn't even have time to dodge. Zhen Jie curses, I was just chasing after 3 Yao Kings, and you caused me so much trouble. Can't you just let me be less worried? You actually let Tai Bai Jinxing of the Immortal Palace and Manjushri of the Thunder Temple come over. You really made me lose face. Go. Why aren't you going to beg for alms for your master? Also, scout the path and see if there are any demons ahead. Yes, senior brother. Zhen Kong smiled and said, I will go now. Then, Zhen Kong said to Chunzong, Master, disciple got a peach for you last time. This time, disciple will get some pears for you. Then, without waiting for Chunzong to say anything, Zhen Kong somersaulted on the cloud and quickly left. Sigh, people will grow up. After going through this calamity, Zhen Kong finally understood. Ba. Buddhism is boundless. Chunzong placed his palms together and bowed towards Nirvana. Then he said to Zhenhan, Zhenhan, pack up your things. We should be on our way. After being delayed for so long, it is time to find a good family for Xiao Chao. Yes, master. Zhenhan nodded and took out her Buddhist staff to pack up the scriptures. Draconic horse Zhenfeng smiled bitterly and walked in front of Zhen Jie. Then he obediently enlarged his body. And this is not bad. Zhen Jie's body swayed and lay down on Draconic horse Zhenfeng's back. He stretched his waist and said with a smile, Damn it, I didn't sleep well at the bottom of the sea. Then, Zhen Jie realized that he had misspoken and hurriedly said, Xiao Chao, come to me. You can't always let my master carry you. Then, Zhen Jie lifted Xiao Chao from the ground and placed him on Draconic horse's back. Draconic horse Zhenfeng was angry, but did not dare to say anything. He only muttered, Damn it, I am the 10th prince of the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. Chunzong looked at his disciples and unconsciously smiled. His footsteps became lighter, and he walked in front of them with his Buddhist staff in hand. Cultivation and the heavenly Tao had no concept of time. Unknowingly, close to 50 years had passed. During these 50 years, many things had happened in the 3 continents. The grand event of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm, and the 7 sages becoming sworn brothers had become an old legend. The demon race had already replaced the previous 6 sages with the 7 sages. Every time the first sage was mentioned, they would be referring to the heaven-defying thunder phoenix, and not the golden-winged great Peng. However, what puzzled the demon race and surprised the human race was that the bloody storm they had expected did not appear. The heaven-defying thunder phoenix great sage did not force his way into the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. He only took the 6 demon realms offered by the 6 sages in name, and did not show up again. There was no fighting for benefits. The strength of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm was not weakened. Naturally, the human race was extremely disappointed. The demon race also had different thoughts. Some felt that the heaven-defying thunder phoenix great sage was too weak, and would not be able to survive in the Great Sage Hall for long. However, most of the demon race rejoiced and believed that the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix Great Sage was the true first sage of the demon race. He deserved the title. The demon realms that did not belong to the 6 sages took the initiative to approach the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix Great Sage's 6 demon realms. The first was naturally the Light Beast's Light Demon Realm. There were many more after that, but these demon realms were not big. Later on, the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix Great Sage chose a demon realm that was neither too big nor too small as his own, combining it with the previous 6 demon realms, and changing its name. This name was not out of the expectations of the 6 sages. They were called the Dubhe Demon Realm, the Heavenly Jade Demon Realm, the Fekta Demon Realm, the Migrez Demon Realm, the Alyath Demon Realm, the Mizar Demon Realm, and the Alcade Demon Realm. Of course, the demon race was still the demon race. Their bloodline was filled with competitiveness, and there was no such thing as modesty and courtesy. After the 7 great sages became sworn brothers, there was a rare period of peace. Then, when they saw their own strength increase, they had other thoughts, and the demon realm began to fight again. There were even some demon realms close to the hidden immortal continent that had plans to encroach on the human race. However, they did not dare to carry out these plans for the time being because there were faint rumors about the 3 demon realms in the sky-concealing ridge. The heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix Great Sage had a very good relationship with the Taoist Grand Ascension stage of the human race. No one dared to take the first step and risk offending the first sage of the demon race. However, since there were rumors, there were naturally waves. 50 years was too short. Perhaps in another 50 years, these small waves would become a big wave. The 1,000 demon sacred realm of the demon race was prosperous and many things had happened. The hidden immortal continent and western paradise of the human race were not peaceful either. There were also many strange things that people talked about enthusiastically. However, among these things, there were a few that were the most famous. The first was that the literature palace of the Immortal Palace had a master. It was a literature star that no one had ever heard of before. His strength was close to a supreme realm. This literature star's name was even more eye-catching. He was directly called Wuxia. How many humans had there been since ancient times? How many sages and literature stars had there been? Who would dare to directly use the name of the literature star? However, this Wuxia was called Wuxia. Moreover, not only did the Confucian cultivators not have any objections, but even the Immortal Palace did not dare to say anything. This was because Wuxia had given the Immortal Palace the complete 5 cheese origin technique. This was the long-cherished wish of countless generations of Confucian cultivators. Finally, at this moment, they had gotten it. The Immortal Palace naturally returned the favor. They called Wuxia an immortal master, and treated him with the respect of all Confucian cultivators in the world. At first, the 4 great clans were dissatisfied, and the 100 clans were resentful. Wuxia did not go to the Immortal Palace to enter the Hall of Literature and Music. Instead, he went to the summit of a nameless mountain to meet the scholars of the world, and fight the Confucian generals of the various clans. After 10 years, he had never tasted defeat. The 4 clans did not say anything. After the Immortal Palace sent down an auspicious sign, they issued an imperial decree to call Wuxia an immortal master, and welcome him to the Literature Palace. The place where Wuxia and the Confucian cultivators fought was called the Literature Peak by later generations. Many literati traveled thousands of miles to pay their respects. The appearance of the literature master was too sudden. Many people speculated about his identity, including the majority of the 4 clans. They believed that this was a chess piece that the Immortal Palace had planted long ago. The literature master was originally a disciple of the Sun clan. However, the Immortal Palace was at a disadvantage right now. Immortal Emperor Gaochen had no choice but to use this important chess piece against the other clans. Moreover, the Saint of all Saints had appeared in the Thousand Demons sacred realm, and the Namwa Methriya Buddha had appeared in the Pure Land world. The Confucian cultivators of the hidden immortal continent were already at a disadvantage. The Immortal Palace had invited the master of the literature Star Palace, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Of course, what made the disciples of the various clans the happiest was that since Wen Chu was regarded as an immortal master, it meant that he was the master of all the Confucian cultivators in the world. The method of 5 Qis unification that he presented to the Immortal Palace was naturally the supreme scripture of all the Confucian cultivators in the world. It was no longer something that the Immortal Palace could monopolize. Both the 4 great clans and the 100 schools of thought could cultivate it. This was indeed extremely important for the development of the Confucian cultivators in the human race. 50 years was too short. The Confucian cultivators of the world were waiting for the 5 Qis origin technique to be announced gradually. Chapter 4578. Regarding one of the 3 continents, Nirvana, there were 2 major events, one happy and one sad. What made all the Buddhist sects in the world sad was that just as Lane Temple welcomed the arrival of Methriya Buddha the world rebelled against Lane Temple. No one knew what had happened in the Lane Temple. The Methriya Buddha and the world-honored one had actually brought nearly 40% of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Arhats of the Lane Temple to open another Dao field in the Xiaolinglong Temple of the Great Snow Mountain. Xiaolinglong Temple was just a small and shabby temple before. Most people didn't even know that there was such a small temple in the world. Now Xiaolinglong Temple was famous again. Of course, Methriya Buddha the world's place couldn't be Xiaolinglong Temple located in Snowy Mountain. Methriya Buddha the world waved the wonderful tree of 7 treasures, and used great Buddhist power to split open the void in Snowy Mountain. With the power of thousands of Buddhas and the faith of millions, he rebuilt a hall. Methriya Buddha the world preached the essence of Buddhism in this hall every day. Although in the eyes of the Buddhas, hundreds of millions of Buddhist disciples had long divided Buddhism into 2 branches, one called Lane Temple and the other called Xiaolinglong Temple. In fact, the thousands of Buddhas in Xiaolinglong Temple understood that there was no plaque outside the hall where they cultivated. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva of Namo Buddhism had also asked Methriya Buddha the world in person, but Methriya Buddha the world only smiled and said, "I'm the future Buddha Lord. How can I snatch the incense of the current Buddha Lord? The cultivation of the philosophers is still in the future." Since then, the thousands of Buddhas in Xiaolinglong Temple didn't ask about this matter anymore. They only listened to the lectures every day and discussed the essence of Buddhism. The difference between Xiaolinglong Temple and Lane Temple was that Methriya Buddha the world not only preached the essence of Buddhism that he had comprehended, but also led thousands of Buddhas to chant and discuss. Each Buddha and Bodhisattva could share their knowledge with the other Buddhas and discuss with each other. In Lane Temple, Methriya Buddha the world preached by himself. The thousands of Buddhas only listened and didn't speak. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva of Namo Buddhism also had doubts. Methriya Buddha the world laughed and said, "The connection between Nirvana and the Buddhist kingdom is broken, so it's hard for us to determine the authenticity of what we have learned. The Mahavairakana world venerable might be one of the Buddha's avatars, but I haven't been in contact with him for a long time. Although we have different positions and different Buddha fruits, we are all disciples of Buddha. What we have learned may be a little different, but the overall trend is correct." Although Methriya Buddha and the world-honored one didn't say anything more, the 1,000 Buddhas already understood. They all chanted the Buddha's name. Namo Methriya Buddha. The Buddha's aura in the entire exquisite temple became even more exuberant. Although the Shaolin Temple had split up and all the Buddhas were mourning, there was no war in the Nirvana world. The Lane Temple and the Shaolin Temple did not have any confrontation. Rather than saying it was a sad matter, it was better to say it was a peaceful breakup. The other thing was a real happy event for the Buddhism sect. After a long and arduous journey and 50 years of hardship, Chunzong and his disciples finally entered Yu province from another route of the hidden immortal continent. After more than 270 years, the sutra seeking in bliss finally came to an end. Tens of thousands of people were once again looking forward to the end of this grand event. The end of the sutra seeking in bliss was also the beginning of the Great Integration. From then on, the golden body of Namo Maitreya Buddha could be consecrated in the Jiangqiao ridge of the town of immortals. The scriptures and doctrines of the Confucian cultivators could also be taught in the Nirvana world. The immortal palace and the Lane temple could no longer interfere with the hidden immortal continent and the Nirvana world on the surface. As for the sutra seeking in bliss after the coast of the East Sea, it did not go as smoothly as Zhenjie expected. In addition to the abrupt appearance of the two demon kings of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, there were also more and more Confucian cultivators who came out of nowhere. As a result, the immortal palace did not need to arrange any more tribulations. These troubles had already caused Zhenjie, who had always been lazy, to complain incessantly. However, the Confucian cultivators of the human tribe had an advantage over the great demons of the demon tribe. Although they took action, they would never eat Chunzang's body as an elixir of immortality. They would never endanger Chunzang's life. At most, they would only threaten him. In the face of these threats, Chunzang only recited the sutra and treated them as nothing. The human tribe Confucian cultivators were helpless and could only vent their anger on Chunzang's disciple. Zhen Han was a member of the immortal palace, so the Confucian cultivators would not make things difficult for him. Dragon Horse Zhenfeng was from the East Sea Dragon Palace. Although the Confucian cultivators wanted to deal with him, he kept saying that he was the 10th prince of the East Sea Dragon Palace. The Confucian cultivators could only believe him and not believe him. As for Zhenjie, his strength was close to the 9th level of origin energy. Even the sage of literature was not his match, let alone an angry martial grandmaster. Therefore, the most unlucky one was Zhen Kong. After Zhen Kong experienced the real and fake Zhen Kong, Chunzang saw a huge change in him. Of course, this change happened slowly and without arousing Chunzang's suspicions. He still faced these difficulties with the devil wand. When the devil wand did not work, he would still recite the sutra mantra and calmly face them. He was like an eminent demon race monk who had been baptized by Buddhist light. Although most of the Confucian cultivators were no match for Zhenjie, the Confucian cultivators' methods were endless. They were tens of thousands of times more powerful than the demon race. In the past 50 years, even someone as strong as Zhenjie had to suffer. He had to lie on Dragon Horse Zhenfeng's back every day and groaned in torment. Damn it, when will these days end? These were the grand events that people were familiar with. However, there were many undercurrents that were not known to the public. One of them was the Fortune Gate in the soaring Dragon Mountain Range in the Yu province. When the Confucian, Buddhist, and demon race were at their peak, the Taoist sect was also rapidly rising. Royal Highness Lan led hundreds of thousands of Taoist sect's troops to step into the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm and annihilate a demon realm expert. After killing many greater demons, he crossed the northern and eastern seas and returned to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range in a high-profile manner. From then on, the Fortune Gate openly appeared in the hidden immortal continent and no longer feared anything. After the Immortal Palace's Lunar Temple's expedition to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range was defeated, they did not send any more troops to annihilate the Fortune Gate. Maybe because 50 years was too short, the Immortal Palace did not have time to send troops, or maybe Immortal Emperor Gaochen had other plans. However, after the Fortune Gate's disciples cleared the mysterious Yellow List, the mysterious Yellow Order's experts began to surround the soaring Dragon Mountain Range. However, the mysterious Yellow Order's encirclement was different from the Immortal Palace's. They did not organize a large-scale battle, but instead sent out hunting experts to kill the Fortune Gate's disciples. Naturally, the Fortune Gate was not to be outdone. They also sent out disciples to hunt down the mysterious Yellow Order's experts. There were many battles between the two sides, and both sides had their own victories and losses. In the end, the mysterious Yellow Order's experts were angered and sent out an 8th grade Origin Force literature saint to hunt down the Taoist sect's disciples. The first person to encounter this literature saint was Wang Bianfei. Even someone as strong as Wang Bianfei was almost killed by this literature saint. Wang Bianfei was shocked and fled into the soaring dragon mountain range with injuries. That literature saint did not give up. Not only did he attack the soaring dragon mountain range, but he also invited his close friends to attack the capital star formation. Moreover, he even arrogantly challenged Daoist Xiao. At this time, the soaring dragon mountain range was different from when Li Xiang and the others were at the Fortune Gate. Among the Fortune Gate's disciples, not only were there Daoist sects experts at 7th grade origin force, but there were also formation masters. Under the protection of these disciples, the literature saints were not able to break through the formation. Just as the mysterious Yellow Order's experts were about to mobilize more Confucian disciples and plead with the Immortal Palace to send troops to annihilate the Fortune Gate, the mysterious Yellow Order's nightmare began. It was dusk, and a group of literature saints were about to join forces to attack the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's grand defensive formation. Rumble. From the south of the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, endless lightning bolts filled the sky, and when they reached the vicinity of the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, it was like a heavenly river had suddenly burst out. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts fell like a lightning tribulation, surrounding the entire soaring Dragon Mountain Range. The group of literature saints was shocked, and they thought that Xiaohua had returned. They desperately resisted and tried to escape. Unfortunately, the several thousand li radius of the soaring Dragon Mountain Range was sealed by lightning. No matter how hard these literature saints struggled, they could not escape. Of the 40-plus literature saints with 8th grade origin force cultivation, 23 were killed by the lightning bolts, and the rest were seriously injured. As a 10,000 zhang tall lightning giant appeared in the sky, the surviving literature saints finally understood that the one who had returned was not Daoist Xiao, but the lightning Daoist. Since the lightning Daoist had returned, Wang Bianfei and the others led their troops to kill. Not only did they kill the remaining 20-plus literature saints, but they also killed the several 100,000 mysterious Yellow Order subordinates who had besieged the soaring Dragon Mountain Range. This battle dyed the soaring Dragon Mountain Range red with blood. From then on, the mysterious Yellow Order's subordinates no longer dared to say anything about besieging the soaring Dragon Mountain Range and exterminating the Fortune Gate's disciples. On the contrary, the Fortune Gate's disciples relied on the news from the Endless Merchant Union to launch counterattacks against the mysterious Yellow Order's subordinates. The 4 aristocratic families were all scholars, and seeing the Fortune Gate's strength, they wanted to deal with the Lightning Daoist. However, the Lightning Daoist was different from the Grand Mist ancestor. Not only was the Lightning Daoist's Grand Ascension Stage origin force cultivation at 9th grade origin force, but he also had several 100,000 high-grade disciples under him. None of the aristocratic families dared to say that they could win in a single battle. However, if the 100 schools of Confucian cultivators surrounded and defeated him, they would lack a commander. The Immortal Palace was raising the banner of the Immortal Master and taking back the advantage of the 100 schools of philosophers. Other than the 4 aristocratic families, no one else was qualified to put themselves under the Fortune Gate's tiger's mouth. As for the 4 aristocratic families, they seemed to know some secrets and were not too keen on exterminating the Fortune Gate. The Confucian cultivators were already like this, not to mention the immortals, Buddhists, and demons joining forces to exterminate the Fortune Gate. The Buddhist sect had Maitreya Buddha leading the exquisite temple. The demon race had the first great saint of the Great Sage Temple. The Literature Palace had Wuxia, who was regarded as the teacher of Confucian cultivators, and the Dragon race had Daoist Yun, who was regarded as the Dragon Master and taught Dragon Island's small elder Ao Sheng. In this world, who had the qualifications, courage, and strength to exterminate the Fortune Gate in the soaring Dragon Mountain Range? Who dared to compete with Xiaohua and Xiaohua? 50 years was a short time, not to mention there was no time in the Star Moon Palace. Inside the Star Moon Palace, on top of the pavilion, Xiaohua and his doppelgangers were meditating with their eyes closed. No one knew about the drastic changes that had taken place in the 3 continents. However, in the end, a thunderous rumble could be heard. Children of gods, 81 rounds of discussion have come to an end. We shall meet again in the future if fate allows it. The Xianhong River was known as a mysterious river in the chaotic divine realm, and the gods could not know its profound meaning. We will lead the children of gods to travel the various worlds, observe space, experience Xianhong, sense time, discuss Tao and become wise, listen quietly and discern clearly. We hope that the children of gods can make progress after leaving, condense their godhead, obtain the godhood, and pry into the divine realm. Chapter 45-79. Rumble. Then countless sounds turned into thunder, filling the entire Star-Moon Palace. At this moment, Xiaohua and his clones suddenly woke up. When they looked at the pavilion again, the stars, the moon, and the night sky were gone. All they could see was a primitive land. The 9 suns were burning fiercely, shining on the earth like flowing fire. Boom. Before Xiaohua and the others could think of anything else, the 9 suns exploded with a loud bang. The flames mixed with lightning caused the entire world to collapse, and an unparalleled power once again enveloped the entire world. Under this power, the illusory realms shattered like bubbles, and the surviving humans and demons were revealed. Then this power dragged everything into the shattered space and flung them out. This is the power of the realm. Xiaohua had returned to the 3 continents from the upper realm. Under this force, he immediately felt a sense of familiarity. He blurted out and exclaimed, "Could it be that this Star-Moon Palace?" Just as he said this, Xiaohua came to his senses. The thunder had clearly said that this was the place where Xianhong debate was held. This pavilion was floating on the Xianhong River, passing through various worlds. The Star-Moon Palace was not the ancient ruin that Fairy Xingyu had imagined. As for what the Star-Moon Palace was, it was not something that Xiaohua could know at this moment. However, Xiaohua knew that under the power of the realm, he would be separated from his clones. What worried him the most was Reverend Yun. Without hesitation, he released his consciousness and shouted, "Fellow Taoists, quickly return to the space. Don't scatter to the 3 continents." Xiaohua did not need to think too much. Reverend Yun was the first to notice the abnormality of the power of the realm. His body was moving in a different direction from Xiaohua and the others. Reverend Yun was about to land in Xiaohua's space. When he touched Xiaohua's consciousness, his body flashed and his dragon body disappeared. Then Daoist sorcerer and the others also fell into the space. A series of shadows flashed, as if they were teleporting, but also as if they were squeezing. A heavy pressure was generated in the surrounding space. "Father." Within the light, little black and little yellows figures appeared. Although these shadows were either stretched into long strips or squashed flat, little yellow's voice still resounded in Xiaohua's heart. Xiaohua was overjoyed and hurriedly sent them into his space. After keeping the 2 little dragons, Xiaohua saw Ao Sheng, Ao Zhan, and the rest of the dragon race, but he did not try to keep them away. It was so much so that at the moment when the light figure was finally annihilated, Xiaohua actually saw an unfamiliar face. This face was very imposing, and his temperament was even more graceful. A kind of aura of a leader uncontrollably flowed out from between his brows. Grand Mist Ancestor. Although Xiaohua had never seen the Grand Mist Ancestor's true face, he already knew that this person must be the Grand Mist Ancestor. The Grand Mist Ancestor also saw Xiaohua, and when his black and white eyes met Xiaohua's starry eyes, an indescribable lightning flashed in the light. At the same time when Xiaohua and the Grand Mist Ancestor met for the second time, in an unknown space, there was no light and no darkness. In a strange realm, there were 2 unknown existences in the silhouette of a colossal figure. One of them had a thunderous voice, and it was the same voice that had spoken at the beginning of the discussion. This voice asked, "Jing, this discussion seems to be a little inappropriate." "Alright, Daddy knows that there is indeed something strange. The place where the dragon god of a certain dragon world is located, there is no trace of the dragon god. Instead, there is an extremely weak aura. Moreover," the thunderous voice interrupted Jing's words, and it laughed. "Presumably, the dragon god has lost the qualifications to participate in the discussion, and some lucky divine fetus has obtained good fortune." There were many such things in Xianhong's discourse. After all, the Xianhong River runs through countless realms, be it the chaos divine world, the primordial immortal world, or the mortal world. In this Xianhong discussion, The treasured boat is casually roaming along the Xianhong River. Who knows how much dust it has created and how many divine seeds have fallen? This is the fortune. This is the heavenly Tao. This is the divine relationship. This divine fetus seems to be different, but this disciple does not dare to break the rules and pry into the discussion seats. I do not dare to use my divine ability to travel through space. And don't worry about it. The thunderous voice replied. Those who are fated to learn of it. Those who are not are killed. This is the Tao of fate. Also, Jing hesitated again. What's wrong? The thunderous voice was displeased, and it asked urgently. Disciple asks master to punish me. Jing's voice became softer. Oh, don't tell me. At this point, Lei Lei understood what was going on. He couldn't help but be furious. Damn. Why didn't you report the damage to the treasure ship? Since you didn't report it, why didn't you repair it earlier? Now the chi of the chaos divine world flows into the mortal world from the treasure ship. Do you know how many lives will be lost? Disciple naturally did not know that the treasure ship was damaged, and the damage was too small. Disciple really did not know. It was only when Disciple noticed that there was something wrong with the dragon god's seat that I realized it. It was already too late to check. Alas. The thunderous voice heaved a long sigh and was about to speak, but suddenly he was stunned and laughed. So that's it. This chi is actually like this. The heavenly Tao, oh heavenly Tao, is really unpredictable. Even with my ability, I almost forgot myself. If so, Jing, not only is she not at fault, she has done a meritorious deed. Really? Master? Na Jing was very happy. Unfortunately, you have involved another karma. You are going to face the tribulation yourself. He master, if I have to face the tribulation, then so be it. Who is afraid of him? Don't say more. Go and repair the treasure ship. That thunderous voice said. I don't know when Xuanhong's law discussion will be held again. Mortal things. I'm afraid that in the future, you won't have the chance to peek into the heavenly Tao. Yes, master. Jing said happily and left the indescribable space. As for the other existence, the huge silhouette did not move for a long time, as if it was thinking and also as if it was taking a nap. Xiaohua did not know what was happening outside the space. He saw the illusion overflowing, only to feel his body lighten. And the stars in front of him were even more brilliant. This is. Xiaohua stared blankly, feeling the gentle caress of the night wind around him. He really felt as if he was in a dream. He let out a low groan. He really couldn't tell if this place was the Star Moon Palace or the Three Continents. Xiaohua was not in a hurry to release his divine sense. Instead, he closed his eyes and restrained all the senses in his body. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he slowly released it. The night breeze was like a lover's whisper. The moonlight was mixed with the chirping of cicadas. The willow branches raised in the wind were like the charm of the night. Waves of frogs croaked in the distance, and the occasional dog barks decorated the night. Cough, cough. The old man's cough, which had not been heard for a long time, added a human atmosphere to this tranquil night. Phew. Xiaohua was completely relieved. Then he took a deep breath. The fresh fragrance of the earth and the rich smell of the rice field made Xiaohua's heart feel at ease. I have returned to the Three Continents in the end. Rumble. Unfortunately, before he could finish sighing in relief, a burst of lightning and thunder came from the void. The indescribable power of law fell on Xiaohua like a fishing net, not giving him any chance to dodge at all. It fell into his body. At the same time, a faint heavy pressure fell on Xiaohua's Naiwan Palace, middle dantian, small dantian, and even his physical body. Moreover, the surrounding space also produced an indescribable rejection at the same time. It pounced on Xiaohua like a tide, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. Damn it. Xiaohua frowned. He hurriedly waved his hand and took out a palm-sized jade talisman. It was the coarse grass talisman that Su Ji had personally refined. Xiaohua urged his magic power. The coarse grass talisman emitted a very gentle brilliance. A mist-like restriction was released from the coarse grass talisman, and slowly fell on top of Xiaohua's head. Shua. Xiaohua felt a kind of coolness fall from the top of his head and pass through his body. After being imprisoned by the power of law, some of the immortal spiritual energy that still conflicted with the space of the 3 continents disappeared. The previous heavy pressure and rejection completely disappeared. This coarse grass talisman is really useful. Xiaohua nodded. Senior Su refined a lot of them, but he didn't use them much. Now this Xiao has benefited from them. Xiaohua checked his body. There was no abnormality. Then he looked around again. Xiaohua's figure was originally standing in midair. After looking around, he saw that there were paddy fields all around him. His figure unconsciously descended, and his feet that had not been touched by dust for a long time stepped on the paddy field. Croak, croak. A soft sound rang out. A toad actually jumped out from the ridge of the paddy field not far away and jumped into the paddy field. Xiaohua saw the scenery of the countryside and felt warmth in his heart. He squatted down very naturally and stretched out his hand to lift up the rice ears in the paddy field, carefully examining them. He saw that the rice ears were quite plump. Although the color was still a little green, the fragrance of the rice was already coming out from the grains. Xiaohua pinched one out from the rice ears and twisted it in his hand. Drip, drip. A few grains fell out. Xiaohua put these grains into his mouth and bit down with his white teeth. Green juice seeped out from the grains, and an astringent bitter fragrance seeped into Xiaohua's mouth. The mellow fragrance that he was more familiar with than spirit herbs or spirit wine immediately filled Xiaohua's heart. This year will definitely be a bumper harvest. Xiaohua's face revealed a smile. It was a smile that was even more satisfied than his harvest in the Star Moon Palace. Who is it? At this moment, the light of an oil lamp came from the ridge of the paddy field in the distance, and a slightly aged voice sounded. Xiaohua smiled and stood up from the ridge of the paddy field. He raised his voice and said, "Senior, I was passing by here. I saw that the rice in the field was growing very well, so I couldn't help but stop to take a look." Chapter 4580. Walking along the ridge of the field was an old farmer in his 60s. The old farmer wore a short shirt and held a pipe in his left hand and an oil lamp in his right. The old farmer's back was bent, but his footsteps were still hale and hearty. "Oh, so it's a young man." Seeing that Xiaohua was only in his 20s and was handsome with an indescribable temperament, the old farmer couldn't help but feel close to him. He smiled and asked, "It's already so late. Why don't you hurry and find a place to stay? What's the use of looking at the rice in this field?" "Hee, this is your field, right?" Xiaohua smiled and said, "Congratulations, this year is another bumper harvest." When the old farmer heard this, he couldn't help but show a sense of pride. However, there was also a hint of bitterness in his pride. He said casually, "Say, it's nothing. I just collected 3 to 5 more bushels." 3 to 5 bushels? Xiaohua smiled and looked at the paddy field nearby. He said, "I see that the paddy fields nearby are all growing well. How could it be that you only collected 3 to 5 bushels? Young man, you also know farm work?" The old farmer was already close. He stopped and asked curiously, "You have such soft skin and tender flesh. You should be a student." Xiaohua smiled and nodded. "You're right, I am a student. However, I was born in a farmer's family and I have farmed since I was young. I know everything about farming." Xiaohua unconsciously raised his head and looked at the hazy starry sky in the distance. The memories that he had picked up before entering Xingyue Palace slowly flowed out. Sigh. When the old farmer heard this, he sighed and said, "I understand. You students have it the hardest. When you were young, you had to read books by oil lamps. When you grew up, you had to travel. After traveling, you had to leave your parents to continue your studies. Young man, you probably haven't been home for a long time, right?" "I won't hide it from you." Xiaohua nodded and said, "It's been a long time. It's been so long that I can't even find my way home. When I think of this, I feel that I'm unfilial." "It's all right." The old farmer smiled and said, "Although there's no road under your feet, you still miss home. You can't be considered unfilial. After all, young people had to go out and explore. If there was a chance in the future, they would go back and take a look. We don't want you to have any glory or wealth, nor do we want you to be promoted. As long as you are safe and sound, father and mother will be happy." The old farmer's words were really simple. In Xiao Hua's ears, his words were even more useful than Su Ji's immortal profound. His eyes were already somewhat misty. Although cultivation allowed Xiao Hua's divine abilities to reach the heavens, his heart, in the end, couldn't leave the ground. You must be tired, young man. Seeing that Xiao Hua didn't speak, the old farmer pointed to a small shed in front of him and said, "Come with me to rest there. It's already late at night, and everyone in the village is resting. Why don't you stay with me for the night? There's still some porridge in my shed that my son delivered last night. I'm afraid it's still warm. Drink some to warm your stomach first." Xiao Hua originally wanted to refuse. How could he have the time to dawdle with an old man from the countryside? However, he really didn't dare to disappoint the old farmer's hospitality. After pondering for a bit, he bowed and said, "Deference is no substitute for obedience. This young one thanks the elder's good intentions. Haha, let's go. Don't haggle over words with me. If we talk for a bit longer, the elegant words I learned from others will all be gone." The old man smiled and wanted to raise his hand to pat Xiao Hua's shoulder. However, looking at Xiao Hua's bright clothes, he didn't dare to raise his hand. As he spoke, he led Xiao Hua to a place in the field. At the end of the field, there was a small shed. Below the shed, there were 5 or 6 wooden pillars inserted into the field. A few feet away from the field, there were some wooden planks that were used to set up seats. In the other direction of the shed, there were also some fields. However, instead of rice, there were some faint green leaves. Those leaves rustled in the breeze like music. On the wooden planks of the shed, there were some bedding and some dried straw. Among the straw, there was a pitch-black jar that was about a foot in size. The jar wasn't tightly covered, and the smell of the bedding mixed with the fragrance of rice gushed out of the jar. Xiao Hua couldn't help but frown. "Elder." Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I still have some things to do." Ha! As soon as he saw Xiao Hua frown, how could the old man not know what Xiao Hua was thinking? He laughed loudly and said, "Young man, don't be anxious, don't be anxious. You scholars are all from the lower realm. How could I let you feel wronged and sleep on my bedding?" As he spoke, the old man nimbly jumped onto the wooden planks and kicked the messy bedding to the edge of the field. He then fiddled with the dried straw a bit and took out some paper from one side of the shed. He smiled and said, "The night isn't particularly cold. You can put up with it. This paper is enough to block the wind." That Xiao Hua smiled and still waved his hand and said, "No need, elder." The old man acted as if he didn't hear him. He touched the jar with his hand and was somewhat worried. He then looked at the other side of the straw shed. He seemed to be whispering, but also seemed to be discussing with Xiao Hua. "This porridge isn't cold yet. There's no need to heat it up. However, I don't have any more bowls and chopsticks here. I have to go wash them. It's a pity that the melons in this field aren't ripe yet. Otherwise, eating a melon wouldn't be bad. I'll go wash the bowls and chopsticks." As he spoke, the old man took off the lid that covered the jar. It was a somewhat shabby porcelain bowl. He looked at the paddy field not far away, and then looked further away. It seemed like he was thinking about where to wash it. It seemed like the paddy field was the place where the old man washed the porcelain bowl. However, the water in the paddy field was clearly somewhat dirty. He wanted to go to a place with a clean water source to clean it. Xiao Hua originally wanted to stop him. However, he changed his mind and put down his raised hand. Meeting was fate. He didn't mind giving this honest old man, or his family, some opportunities. "Young man, wait a moment." Sure enough, the old man said somewhat awkwardly, "I'll go wash the bowls and chopsticks for you." "Thank you, elder." Xiao Hua smiled and nodded. Seeing that Xiao Hua was no longer polite, the old man was also happy. Just as the old man was about to leave, Xiao Hua suddenly frowned. He raised his eyes and looked at a corner of the night sky. It seemed like something had happened there. "Damn it!" Xiao Hua suddenly cursed in a low voice. With a flick of his finger, several golden threads fell into the void and disappeared. Then Xiao Hua said to the old man, "Elder, there's no need to be so troublesome. When this young man passed by the village in front, he already ate some things. Right now, I'm not hungry. Moreover, this young man also brought some jujubes with him. Come, elder, you should also have a taste." As he spoke, Xiao Hua reached into his bosom to take some jujubes. The old man laughed and immediately exposed Xiaohua's lie. Young man, don't try to deceive this old man. If you ate at Jiuzhou village at night, how could they let you out? No matter what, they would have to let you stay for a night. My Xiao Empire's people have an unwritten rule. As long as they meet a wandering disaster victim, they must do their best to help. Not to mention a traveling scholar like you. Xiao Empire? Xiaohua was stunned and asked curiously. Which Xiao Empire? It's the Fiend God Blood Pool. Speaking up to here, Xiaohua first laughed. This old man was a country bumpkin. How could he know about the Fiend God Blood Pool? Unexpectedly, the old man actually answered and said proudly. Naturally, after the Fiend God Blood Pool disappeared, Daoist Xiao spread the good seeds and created the Xiao Empire. Young man, don't tell me you don't know Yan Province's most famous Xiao Empire. Sigh. Xiaohua sighed and replied. Elder, you don't know. Actually, this young man is lost and doesn't know where he is going. Hee, it's about the same as what this old man thought. If you didn't get lost, how could a scholar without the strength to truss a chicken walk alone at night? You should rest at this old man's place for a night. Tomorrow, I'll let my eldest child help you find a book boy. The old man laughed very honestly. Although he already had some doubts, he didn't say it until now. Obviously, he was protecting a scholar's self-esteem. Xiaohua's heart warmed. He hurriedly took out a handful of spirit dates from his bosom and said, Elder, you really don't need to wash the dishes. This young man met a senior a few days ago. He gave this young man some immortal dates. If you don't believe me, you can try it. Just eat one, and you won't be hungry for a day. Fresh dates? How can there be any fresh dates at this time? Oh, immortal. Immortal dates. The old man first thought that Xiaohua didn't want to trouble him, but then he realized. When the fragrance of the immortal dates floated over, he couldn't help but be startled. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, Young man, this kind of immortal item. You should carefully keep it. Don't take it out so easily. It will bring disaster. It's fine. Xiaohua smiled and said, This young man has always been careful. If it wasn't for Elder's concern for this young man wouldn't dare to take it out. As he spoke, Xiaohua walked to the front of the shed, stepped on the wooden plank and sat down cross-legged. He raised his hand and said, Elder, come and try it. Okay. The old man didn't hold back and agreed. He stepped into the paddy field and washed the porcelain bowl and chopsticks that still had some rice grains in it. He then walked back with a smile. After putting away the bowl and chopsticks, the old man sat on the wooden plank of the shed. His feet that were dripping with mud dangled outside the plank. The old man sat down and carefully picked up a spirit date from Xiaohua's hand. He smelled it and gently bit a small crescent moon with his teeth. Then he chewed it a few times. The old man didn't bite much, so how could he chew it? However, the fragrance still filled his mouth and nose, and a warm current flowed into his throat. It really is an immortal item. The old man's eyes were filled with surprise. He carefully put the spirit date that he bit a bit into his bosom. Needless to say, the old man took the spirit date and naturally left it for his family. Xiaohua didn't ask him if it was for his wife, his children, or his grandchildren. He simply put all the dates in his hands on the wooden plank and said with a smile, Elder, you can eat it yourself. There are still so many here. You can take them all. Chapter 4581. This. How can this be? The old man was a little embarrassed, but looking at the spirit jujubes, he couldn't bear to part with them and muttered, You still have to eat them yourself. It's all right. Xiaohua smiled. This Xiaosheng's guards still have some. When Elder's eldest child sends this Xiaosheng back tomorrow, won't this Xiaosheng have something to eat? Then this old man won't be polite. The old man carefully hid the spirit jujubes in his clothes. There were more than 10 of them. In the end, the old man looked at the remaining 2 spirit jujubes on the wooden plank and gave them to Xiaohua. He said with some unease, You should take these too. If you can't find your guards tomorrow. Okay. Xiaohua didn't refuse and accepted the 2 spirit jujubes. He asked, Elder, this Xiaosheng has actually heard of the Xiao country. Although this time I didn't come to the Xiao country specifically to travel, I still had the intention to take a look. After all, this is a paradise opened by a Dao sect cultivator. in this Xiaosheng's eyes. This is inconceivable. Elder, can you tell this Xiao country to this Xiaosheng first? Okay. The old man nodded and took out the tobacco from his waist. As he stuffed tobacco into the tobacco, he said, Actually, this old man's original home wasn't here. Xiaohua sat cross-legged in the straw hut with a smile on his face as he listened to the old man's story. He then released his divine sense to check the Xiao country's situation. It wouldn't have mattered if he didn't look, but when he looked, Xiaohua's brows furrowed slightly. But it was only a moment before Xiaohua smiled again. Because in his divine sense, not only did he see something he didn't like, he also saw Ao Sheng Xiong Yi, and more than 10 Fortune Gate disciples. Xiaohua used a divine ability to give a few instructions, then withdrew his divine sense and focused on listening to the old man's story. What the old man said at the beginning was similar to what Xiaohua knew, but in the end, Xiaohua was a little surprised. Because according to what the old man had said, the current Xiao Empire didn't have any Taoist Empire or Confucian Empire. However, at the borders of the Xiao Empire, there were many small Taoist empires that had sprung up. These Taoist empires were constantly encroaching on the borders of the Xiao Empire. In the past 40 years, many lands had already been incorporated into these Taoist empires. The farmers who were originally farming on these lands were either incorporated into the Taoist empires, or forced to search for land in the Xiao Empire. Of course, there were even some who lost their homes again. This Xiaohua sneered and thought to himself, there are only two origins of this Tao sects. One is the Grand Mist ancestors' subordinates. They want to get a share of the Xiao country. However, these Tao sects are only a small part. The majority of them have other origins. They must be the disciples of the 100 schools of thought. They don't dare to openly defy the 4 great families. It's the orders of the sage of literature from the other families. Instead, they support some puppet Tao sects to do shady business. In the end, the old man sighed. He looked into the distance and said, The border of the Mo country is only a few hundred li away from our village. Perhaps, it won't be long before our village is occupied by the Mo country. I heard that the king of the Mo country is very domineering. Anyone who joins the Mo country has to pay a heavy tax. Previously, there were many people who voluntarily joined the Mo country, but now they are regretting it. Some of them escaped. However, the land in the Xiao country already belongs to someone. When they return, it's inevitable that there will be some fighting. A few days ago, there was even a fight. Old sir. Xiaohua nodded. He pointed at the place where his divine sense had swept and asked, Previously, when this Xiaosheng came from there, I saw many people flying in the sky. They used spells to throw some huge rocks and soil into the paddy field. Is this the Mo country's way of seizing land? What a sin! When the old man heard this, he couldn't help but reveal a regretful expression. He said, The paddy field that was planted for half a year was destroyed just like that. How could they care about the lives of us farmers? Even if they want to occupy the land, they don't have to destroy the farmland. The rice that was about to be harvested was all gone in an instant. After saying this, the old man said, Young man, you're right. This is just one of their methods of seizing land. If they destroy the farmland, we farmers will no longer be able to cultivate. Naturally, we will have to go elsewhere. Wouldn't this land be barren? They will naturally take it back. Is there any other way? Xiaohua looked interested. However, his eyes had long since narrowed, looking a little angry. This is nothing. The old man bitterly smiled. There's something even more outrageous. Elder, tell me. Let this Xiaosheng broaden his horizons. Xiaohua asked. I heard that sometimes, they will take advantage of the night when the villagers are asleep, and use their magic to make a village's thatched cottage disappear. When the villagers wake up, they have no home. These villagers can only take the initiative to leave. The old man thought for a moment and said, Also, if there are still people who don't leave, they will turn the village into a lot of snakes, rats, and even ferocious beasts. They will bite the villagers to death or scare them away. Damn it! Xiaohua couldn't help but curse. Also, the old man said again, if this doesn't work, they will turn the surroundings of the village into cliffs, making it impossible for the villagers to leave. They will starve to death. I got it. Xiao Hua stood up. His face was a little gloomy. He said, "Good will be rewarded, evil will be repaid. It's not that there won't be any retribution. Now that the time has come, good and evil will be repaid." "Junior Yu, what do you want to do?" The old man hurriedly stood up in fright. He pulled Xiao Hua and said, "You are just a scholar who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions." "Don't worry, elder." Xiao Hua smiled and patted the back of the old man's rough hand. He said, "Previously it was this Xiao who didn't think it through. This Xiao's ability is limited. Moreover, this Xiao's development has indeed exceeded this Xiao's expectations. Now this Xiao has the ability to protect all of you. All of you can peacefully live and work here." As he spoke, Xiao Hua's figure slowly flew up into the air. Bursts of lightning appeared around his body. As the thunder rumbled, the entire horizon was illuminated by golden light. Xiao country is Taoist Jiao Xiao country. It is also the Xiao country of a group of displaced commoners. No matter if it is the human race or the demon race, if they can peacefully live in my Xiao country, this Xiao will welcome them. However, if there are people who have ulterior motives and rely on their divine ability to bully the commoners, then they are going against this Xiao and making things difficult for this Xiao. I am Taoist Xiao. Today I give the order. Evil. Evil will be repaid. Whoever dares to have any ideas about my Xiao country tonight will pay back tenfold. Xiao Hua used his divine ability. Every word and sentence was like thunder in the Xiao country. Whether it was the commoners, Confucian cultivators, or Taoist sects, they were all awakened. Taoist Xiao, Taoist Xiao? The old man in the straw hut seemed to have awakened from a dream. He couldn't help but fall to the ground and say with his head, "Taoist Xiao the savior, you have finally come." Then he was even more surprised. He jumped up and rushed to the village as if he had gone mad. He shouted, "I see Taoist Xiao, I see Taoist Xiao." Xiao Hua saw lights appear on the ground, like hearts that were awakening. He took out the Kunlun mirror. With a shake, tens of thousands of Shenhua continent's disciples flew out. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept out and pulled Ao Sheng and Xiong Yi, who were flying in the distance, over. Xiao Hua shouted sternly, "Where is Xiong Yi?" "Disciple is here." Xiong Yi hurriedly bowed. "Master's previous instructions, have you investigated clearly?" Xiao Hua asked. "Yes, Master knows." Xiong Yi replied, "Disciple has captured more than a dozen cultivators who were doing evil in the night. I have already found out a lot of information. These disciples are under your command." Xiao Hua raised his hand and pointed at the army of tigers and wolves. He ordered, "I'll give you 1 day's time to destroy all the countries around the Xiao country. Capture those evil monarchs back to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range, and interrogate them. You must find the mastermind behind the scenes and eliminate all evil." "Yes, disciple accepts the order." Xiong Yi complied and led the tens of thousands of Fortune Gate disciples away. Master Xiao. Seeing that the Fortune Gate disciples had left, Ao Sheng respectfully asked, "Do you need disciple to do anything for Master Xiao?" "No need." Xiao Hua looked at Ao Sheng and asked, "What did you gain from the Star Moon Palace?" "The Star Moon Palace is wonderful beyond words." Ao Sheng couldn't help but smile when he heard this. He hurriedly replied, "Disciple has gained a lot." "All right, there's no need to go into details." Xiao Hua raised his hand to stop Ao Sheng from continuing. The Kunlun mirror in his hand vibrated, and a light beam overflowed. He said, "This is just the beginning of your cultivation. The real test is coming next." "Yes, disciple understands." Ao Sheng nodded with anticipation in his eyes. When the light beam from the Kunlun mirror swept across, Xiao Hua kept it into the space and asked Reverend Yun to give Ao Sheng a small part of the dragon crystal from the Supreme Dragon God, as well as some useful things that the Dragon Clan had obtained from the Star Moon Palace. After arranging Ao Sheng's matters, Xiao Hua's consciousness entered the space again, and carefully sent the items left behind by the heaven-devouring beast, and Di Ting into Blackie and Goldie's bodies. As expected, when the two divine beasts' soul essences entered their bodies, the two little fellows couldn't fully accept it, not to mention that their bodies were fluctuating in and out of the space. Even their brains were emitting chaotic energy waves that roared and rushed out in all directions. Activating his divine ability, Xiaohua constantly paid attention to the two little fellows' changes, smoothing out any uncontrollable changes. After a full hour, the two little fellows finally calmed down and fell into a deep sleep. One of them was a black heaven-devouring beast shadow that shrouded Blackie, while the other was a yellow Deting's shadow that covered Goldie. Both shadows emitted different rhythms of energy waves that slowly converged into the two little fellows' bodies. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4582. Xiaohua waited for a while longer. Seeing that the two little ones were no longer moving, he sealed the two different spaces and left. Phew. Xiaohua looked at the fields and let out a long sigh. A smile appeared on his face as he thought to himself. Although I don't know how little yellow and little black absorbed the soul essence, and the way they absorbed the soul essence is different, Xianhong said clearly that the soul essence is the most mysterious thing in the world. Any existence that can be passed down through the soul essence has unlimited potential. When the two little ones awaken, it will be the time when the heaven-devouring beast and Deting reappear in the world. After dealing with Ao Sheng and the two little ones, Xiaohua's figure was now in the air. He looked down at the boundless paddy fields, villages, and people with a smile in his eyes. All those years ago, when he sowed seeds in the Fiend God Blood Swamp, it was only a spur-of-the-moment idea, and he couldn't bear to let the swamp become desolate. However, he'd never imagined that in just a little over 200 years, the Fiend God Blood Swamp that caused one's expression to turn pale just now had already become a paradise that protected an extremely large number of refugees. Now in Xiaohua's eyes, this magnificent scene was far more impactful than what he had heard before. However, there was no paradise in this world that didn't need strength to support it, and there was no paradise that wasn't coveted by others. In just 50 years, the Xiao Empire that no one dared to probe before was now being probed by the Devil's Claws, even though Xiaohua, who founded the Xiao Empire, was already a Mahayana stage human. Previously, when this Xiao was not strong enough, these literary sages might have felt that this Xiao wasn't a threat and only admired me. But now that this Xiao's strength has surpassed theirs, their mentality has changed? Xiaohua pinched his chin and thought to himself, or perhaps they are busy with other things and have put the Xiao Empire's matter to the back of their minds. Although this Xiao is already a Mahayana stage human, after returning to the three continents, I only made a thunderous strike in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, and then disappeared without a trace. I didn't express my attitude towards the Xiao Empire's matter, so this caused those ambitious Confucian cultivators and Taoist cultivators to have ideas? Yes, this Xiao has to ask Xiong Yi and the others for their opinions. I don't want to let a good thing that is beneficial to the people end up in an unsightly state. It was also at this time that dawn broke in the east. A ray of sunlight crossed the horizon, wiping away the remaining darkness between heaven and earth, rapidly enveloping the entire earth. A new day had arrived. Xiaohua habitually opened his mouth, and a bit of sun essence fell into his mouth. Before he could swallow it, the crystal-like godhead hidden in Xiaohua's brain slightly trembled again. Countless power of faith gushed out from all over the hidden immortal continent and fell into the godhead, turning into faint crystal threads. Looking at the ground again, in the village, countless villagers, old and young, rushed out of their houses and stood on the ground. Under the effect of the crystal godhead, the entire Xiao country, and even outside of the Xiao country, hundreds of thousands of miles away, no matter the distance, even the mortals could clearly see Xiaohua's appearance. Billions of people, who were regarded as ants by cultivators, all knelt on the ground in the morning light. Without any rhythm or command, everyone kowtowed from the bottom of their hearts. Greetings, Spiritual Master Xiao. Thank you, Spiritual Master Xiao, for saving our lives. Swoosh. Xiaohua's eyes became blurry all of a sudden. His silent tears couldn't help but fall down. What he did was merely an unintentional action. Yet in the eyes of these ordinary people, this unintentional action was even more important than the heavens. They couldn't help but place all their hopes on him. This kind of faith was not only a kind of opportunity, it was also a kind of heavy hope. Seeing them, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of his own parents. He didn't know whether it was him who saved these villagers or these villagers who helped him. Xiaohua had a lot of problems. His heart was soft, his ears were soft, he was indecisive. And sometimes he was even a little fussy. He liked to be a good person, but he had an advantage that others didn't often have, and that was gratitude. Even if he was an ant in the eyes of cultivators, as long as Xiaohua had the slightest kindness, he would repay it with gusto. If it was someone else, seeing billions of villagers kneeling and kowtowing, they wouldn't be able to help but be high-spirited and full of vigor. But Xiaohua's first thought was whether he was worthy of these villagers' worship, and whether he could do something for the villagers' faith to repay the benefits brought to him by their faith. Xiaohua took a deep breath and raised his hand. Without using any magic power, he lifted the billions of villagers. Xiaohua's voice reverberated within several thousand li radius, as if it was ringing in the villagers' hearts. Everyone, please rise. This Xiao was born in a farmer's family. Although this Xiao has cultivated for a long time, seeing you is like seeing this Xiao's parents, like seeing this Xiao's family. There are many goals in cultivation, either to defy the heavens with one's own strength, or to seek immortality by following the heavens. But this Xiao has always thought that these goals are too lofty. This Xiao's goal in cultivation is to live a peaceful life, and to use my strength to protect the world's people when they are in trouble. Since everyone believes in this Xiao and worships this Xiao, then this Xiao also swears that this Xiao will not let you down in this life, and my fortune gate will also not dare to let you down. Ka-cha-cha. Lightning rumbled within 10,000 li radius, and images of heavenly dragons, flying phoenixes, cheilants, and other illusory images appeared. Thousands of auspicious signs rushed out from the void, covering the entire Xiao country. While everyone was still in shock, the lightning gathered and condensed into a lightning bolt as thick as a child's arm, striking straight down from the sky. Daoist Xiao. Everyone turned pale with fright, and their hearts trembled. Boom. The lightning bolt landed on Xiaohua's forehead, and a dreamlike landscape atlas appeared under the lightning bolt. It then entered Xiaohua's body and rushed into the crystal-like godhead. Then a kind of peace, a kind of tranquility, and a kind of absolute trust fell into the crystal threads connected to the godhead, transcending time and space, and filled the hearts of millions of villagers. Feeling the same as Xiaohua, millions of villagers had tears streaming down their faces, whether they were young or old. That kind of gratitude and Xiaohua's appearance were deeply engraved in their hearts. Master. At this time, Xiongyi's voice sounded. Disciple has already captured all the Xiao country's rulers and royal family's disciples. So fast. Xiaohua was a little dazed. It had only been half a day. Xiongyi reported meticulously. Good, Master knows that there are 21 Taoist countries near the Xiao country, 10 Confucian countries and 3 Buddhist countries. Among them, 2 Buddhist countries and 1 Confucian country did not encroach on the Xiao country's territory. The remaining 30 countries are nothing but ants in front of our Fortune Gate's army. Wherever our army passes, they crumble. There is no decent resistance. Good, you lead the way. We will return to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Xiaohua ordered, and took out the Pegasus from his space. The Pegasus stretched its neck and neighed, and with a flap of its wings, it rushed towards the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Respectfully sending off Daoist Xiao, millions of villagers couldn't help but cry and kneel down. They really hoped that Daoist Xiao would be with them and protect them for the rest of their lives, as well as their descendants. However, they were clear that while they were busy all year round, working hard for their own livelihood, Daoist Xiao also had to cultivate. It was best for him to be himself. It was a bright afternoon in the Fortune Dao Palace. Xiaohua's chair was empty as usual, and there were 4 chairs placed in front of it. At this time, 2 of the chairs were occupied by Prince Lan and Li Xiang, while the other 2 chairs were empty. Below the high platform, there were some Golden Core disciples and Foundation Establishment disciples. Most of these disciples stood beside Li Xiang. On Lanlan's side, other than a few Golden Core disciples, there were also a few spirit-severing disciples. These disciples didn't have any arrogance on their faces, nor did they show any special respect. As for the Thunderbolt Immortal, Fujiwen, and the other inner disciples, they weren't in the Fortune Gate Palace. At this time, Lanlan's cultivation had already surpassed Li Xiang's, approaching the late nascent soul stage. His gaze swept across the entire Fortune Gate Palace and he said, "Senior Brotherly, I have something to discuss with you today." Lanlan's words carried a hint of discussion, but his gaze only lingered on Li Xiang for a moment before he looked outside the hall. There was a kind of authority and confidence in his voice. "Haha, junior brother." Li Xiang laughed. "What is it? Junior brother has already far surpassed me in handling the sex affairs. Junior brother can make all the decisions, and I will only be the advisor." Just as Royal Highness Lan was about to speak, his gaze swept past the spirit-severing disciples beside him, and his tone changed as he sighed. Sigh. When senior brother mentioned planning, junior brother can easily recall the time when you, me, Xiong-yi, and junior brother Chang-yu racked our brains on how to develop the Fortune Gate. Sometimes, we even quarreled over some differences of opinion. Although it was difficult at that time, looking back, it was true happiness. Now junior brother Chang-yu is gone, and it's impossible for us to return to that time. Hearing Lan mention Chang-yu, Li Xiang's expression changed, and he sighed deeply. He looked at the disciples below the stage and said, "Yes, at that time, the four of us worked together to develop the Fortune Gate under the pressure of Confucian cultivators. We were afraid that we would fail to live up to Master's expectations. Now that I think about it, the changes in the past few decades are bigger than the changes in the past 200 years. Haha, it's not just big, it's simply earth-shattering." His Highness Lan said proudly, "Master is a miracle, and in his hands, our Fortune Gate is also a miracle. Although the 3 continents are big, which Taoist force can compare to our Fortune Gate?" Chapter 4584. Li Xiang hesitated for a moment before reminding, "Junior brother, the Grand Mist Ancestor, is an extremely powerful figure. He was the strongest person in the Taoist Gate in the past, and he was only defeated by the combined forces of the Confucian, Buddhist and demon sects." "Hee, senior brotherly." Lan chuckled. "It's good that you're so careful. However, if you had seen Master's majestic appearance in the 1,000 demonic sacred grounds, and if you had seen my Fortune Gate's hundreds of thousands of soldiers flying across the 1,000 demonic sacred grounds, all the demonic beast clans would give way to them. You wouldn't be so cautious anymore. Moreover, Martial Uncle Lei Ting is guarding the soaring Dragon Mountain range. He's also a human Grand Ascension stage cultivator, and his methods aren't any weaker than Master's. That day he was enraged and killed more than 10 Confucian saints. Ha. Even if it's the Grand Mist Ancestor, does he have such methods?" "All right." Li Xiang nodded and replied, "We're finally at the end of our suffering. This victory was obtained by sacrificing the lives of the Fortune Gate's disciples, so we must cherish it." "Of course," Lan Huan said disapprovingly. "How could junior brother not know?" "Oh, I wonder what junior brother wanted to discuss just now." Li Xiang pulled Lan Huan back to the topic and asked, "Why don't you tell me, and I'll give you some advice?" "Oh, it's like this." Lan Huan chuckled. A few days ago, Taoist Master Qing Su sent an envoy over to discuss the division of forces in the 9 prefectures. That Li Xiang frowned when he heard Huang Xiaolong's words. "Junior brother, since Master has already agreed to join forces with the Grand Mist Ancestor, you should do as Master says. But now, Fu Jiwen, Yu Zhongquan, Xian Songzi, and the other senior brothers have returned. Although they won't interfere with the Fortune Gate's affairs, I feel that it's better to discuss with them. After all, the division of forces in the 9 prefectures is too sensitive and important. Oh, if possible, it's best to ask Martial Uncle Lei Ting." Sigh, senior brotherly. Helplessness appeared on Prince Lan's face, but there was also a trace of pride in his helplessness. Martial Uncle Lei Ting, Fu Jiwen, and the other senior brothers don't care about the affairs of the sect. They have already said that as long as you and I discuss it, they will agree. This. Li Xiang hesitated for a moment before persuading Huang Xiaolong. "Junior brother, elder brother has something that I've always wanted to tell junior brother. Since we're talking about cooperating with the Grand Mist Ancestor, elder brother has to remind junior brother. We don't know the Grand Mist Ancestor's strength, but our Fortune Gate strength has been seen through by Taoist Qing Su and Venerable Lord Heaven Flipping Master. If they are sincere, why haven't they revealed their strength to us?" This kind of cooperation didn't seem too appropriate. Moreover, The hidden immortal mainland is the world of Confucian cultivators. Although our fortune gate strength is at its peak, compared to the 100 schools of Confucian cultivators, we are still lacking. The main reason why the Confucian cultivators haven't besieged our soaring dragon mountain range is because they don't want to be the first sacrifice. However, if our fortune gate and the Grand Mist Ancestors plan is too big and cross their bottom line, we will provoke the Confucian, Buddhist, and demon race to join forces again. Then, it won't just be a disaster for our fortune gate, it will also bring disaster to Master. Therefore, Elder Brother thinks that Master has gone to the Star Moon Palace, right? Let's wait for him to return from the Star Moon Palace before we decide. It's better. What Senior Brother thinks is also what Junior Brother thinks. Prince Lon smiled and said, previously Junior Brother asked Taoist Ching Su, and Taoist Ching Su didn't hide anything from him. He even told Junior Brother about the situation of the Tao Gate seniors who escaped from the Peng Lai Immortal region. However, he isn't the Grand Mist Ancestor, so he doesn't know everything. But if you want the Grand Mist Ancestor to announce their forces, only Master and Martial Uncle Lei Ting have the qualifications to do so. Junior Brother, you are representing our fortune gate and Master. Since the Grand Mist Ancestor isn't willing to reveal anything to you, it means that he doesn't have any sincerity. There's no point in doing this kind of unequal cooperation. Junior Brother understands. However, it's rare for our Tao Gate to be in such a good situation. Junior Brother has to do something for Master and the Tao Gate. While Junior Brother is arguing for what's right, I also want to take advantage of the fact that the Confucian sect hasn't gone all out to deal with our Tao Gate. I want to set up a trap and move away all the chess pieces that should be moved. This will build a good foundation for Master to take over in the future. Li Xiang heard Prince Lan's righteous words and could only nod his head and say, then Junior Brother, please tell me about the plan you discussed with Taoist Ching Su. Prince Lan began to speak frankly and frankly. The more Li Xiang listened, the more his face changed. A feeling of fear and trepidation rose in his heart. Before Prince Lan could finish, Li Xiang hurriedly waved his hand and said, Junior Brother, this matter is too important. We can't make a decision. I feel that we have to explain this matter to Martial Uncle Lei Ting. If we don't have the confidence to control this plan, then our fortune gate will be used as a tool. Prince Lan raised his eyebrows and laughed. Of course our fortune gate has the ability to control. That iron army of hundreds of thousands is rare in this world. Which Confucian sect family dares to go against our fortune gate? Junior Brother, is there anything else? Li Xiang saw that Prince Lan was in high spirits and knew that it wasn't easy to persuade him. He changed the topic and said, let's discuss other things first. Let Senior Brother think about this matter. All right. His Highness Lan helplessly agreed. He was somewhat resentful of this unambitious Senior Brother of his. However, when he thought about how Li Xiang couldn't even manage the small Taoist kingdom well back then, he could only blame his bad luck for not being able to do something earth-shattering before Xiaohua returned to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. The second matter is about the disciple recruitment. His Highness Lan's tone had lost its fervor, and his interest waned as he said, although the mysterious yellow token has stopped attacking our soaring Dragon Mountain range, Little Brother feels that there will still be mysterious yellow tokens in the Yu province and the other 8 provinces. This is very disadvantageous for our fortune gate's recruitment. Junior Brother wants Senior Brother Yufeng to bring some low-level disciples to other parts of the hidden immortal mainland to recruit disciples. Li Xiang didn't think much of it and nodded. Recruiting disciples has always been our fortune gate's #1 priority. Senior Brother Yufeng will also bring Qin Xiaoyao and the other disciples. After all, Senior Brother Yufeng is not familiar with the hidden immortal mainland. Qin Xiaoyao and the other disciples have more experience. Oh, Junior Brother has already told Senior Brother Yufeng about this. This year, Qin Xiaoyao and the other disciples will not be allowed to leave the mountain for the time being. Prince Lan smiled and said, after all, the outside world is much more dangerous than before. Li Xiang was stunned for a moment, and he raised his head to look at Yufeng, who was neither arrogant nor humble. A bitter smile appeared on his face. Yufeng was a spirit-severing disciple, and he had followed Prince Lan back from the Thousand Demons' sacred grounds. Normally, Yu Feng and the other disciples would be guarding the Fortune Dao Palace and listen to Prince Lan's and Li Xiang's orders. But in reality, Yu Feng and the other disciples only listened to Prince Lan's orders and turned a deaf ear to Li Xiang's orders. Therefore, Prince Lan used Yu Feng as an excuse, and Li Xiang couldn't do anything about it. Although Li Xiang had a trace of suspicion in his heart, and felt that Prince Lan was taking advantage of the disciple recruitment to expand his strength, he didn't have any evidence against him, and he didn't want to think in that direction. Alright, since Junior Brother has already made up his mind, then we'll do as Junior Brother says. Li Xiang smiled. We're all working hard for the development of the Fortune Dao Palace. Senior Brother is willing to support you unconditionally. In that case, many thanks to Senior Brother. Prince Lan smiled proudly, and then looked at the Fortune Dao Palace in high spirits. In the past 50 years, he had made decisions in the Fortune Dao Palace more than once, and he was already used to the feeling of being able to act freely. Disciples. Suddenly, a thunderous voice resounded in the sky above the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Daoist Xiao is back. Open the mountain protecting Grand Array, and line up to welcome him. Ah, Mas. Master is back? When Li Xiang heard the lightning Daoist's voice, he immediately jumped up from his seat and exclaimed in disbelief. He's finally back. Prince Lan was also shocked for no reason. When he came back to his senses, he looked at the jubilant atmosphere in the Fortune Dao Palace, and he felt as if he had been pushed down from the clouds into the abyss. His face was filled with ecstasy as he shouted, Yes, yes! Master is finally back. Senior Brotherly, let's hurry up and welcome him. Yu Province was far away from Gun Province, but with Xiao Hua's lightning escape, it seemed closer. Before the soaring Dragon Mountain range appeared in Xiao Hua's divine sense, the lightning Daoist's voice sounded in his mind again. Haha, fellow Daoist, you're finally back. What did you gain from the Star Moon Palace? Why don't you guess? Xiao Hua was also happy, and he replied in his mind with a smile. TCH, is there a need to guess? The lightning Daoist said disdainfully. Fellow Daoist, you didn't even let go of a copper coin. This Star Moon Palace must have been completely plundered by you, right? Hehe, fellow Daoist, you're wrong this time. Xiao Hua smiled and told the lightning Daoist about what he and the others had seen in the Star Moon Palace. The lightning Daoist sighed in pity. Damn it, it can't be. The Star Moon Palace is actually a place where the gods discuss the laws. It's not an ancient ruin at all. I didn't go, it's a huge loss. Don't worry. Daoist Wu took advantage of the opportunity and said, Fellow Daoist Tiandao and fellow Daoist Karma are also listening. We've borrowed a lot from them. When you return to the space, just listen to their teachings. Fellow Daoist Xiao has also left the corresponding elixir for you. Swoosh. When he heard about the elixir, the lightning Daoist couldn't help but instantly enter the space. When he came out, he shamelessly reached out and asked Xiao Hua for it. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4585. Xiao Hua had no choice but to follow the Thunderclap Immortal into the space, and take out the thing he had obtained earlier. As expected, the Thunderclap Immortal's eyes lit up when he saw the bamboo joint that condensed the long river. He raised his hand almost without hesitation, and took the bamboo joint in his hand. After he released his spirit sense, he looked at it carefully for a while and said with a smile, There is a long river sealed in this thing. The aura of this long river is not from an ordinary realm. If I'm not mistaken, it has something to do with the wisp of purple gas that I obtained earlier. I will refine this bamboo joint, and the aura of the long river will be integrated into my body. It will be similar to the effect of fellow Taoist taking the clear feather pill. Haha, many thanks fellow Daoist. The Thunderbolt Immortal spat out lightning from his mouth and swallowed the bamboo joint. A clear stream gushed out from the top of the Thunderbolt Immortal's head like a fountain. It then turned around and fell down. As the clear stream flickered, an indescribable fluctuation merged with the Thunderbolt Immortal's body. I's going to meditate. The Thunderbolt Immortal's face lit up as he said, In these 50 years, I have put in a lot of effort. It's time for I to rest. The Thunderbolt Immortal sat down cross-legged in the space, and started refining the bamboo joint with all his might. And fellow Daoist has worked hard. Xiaohua cupped his fist and said, "Leave the rest to I." Xiaohua thought of something and asked, "How is His Highness Lan doing these days?" The Thunderbolt Immortal naturally didn't answer Xiaohua's question. He passed the information he knew to Xiaohua and ignored him. Xiaohua's face turned gloomy when he received the Thunderbolt Immortal's information. If he didn't know His Highness Lan's thoughts, he might have thought that His Highness Lan was selfish and wanted to expand his strength. However, if he knew His Highness Lan's thoughts, then His Highness Lan's actions were really thought-provoking. All right. Xiaohua instantly thought of the scene when he had seen the Grand Mist Ancestor in the illusion when he had left the Star Moon Palace. A sharp glint flashed across his eyes and he said coldly, "People often say that a mountain cannot hold two tigers. This Xiao believed it before, but now, I'm afraid it's true. Since it's like this, Grand Mist Ancestor, bring it on. This Xiao doesn't mind playing with you. Who doesn't know how to cast a long line to catch a big fish?" Now that he had a plan, Xiaohua unleashed his powerful Mahayana stage aura, and the entire sky began to churn. Several huge tornadoes gathered in the sky like holes, stirring up the originally clear sky. Bursts of thunderous rumbles spread out in all directions as Xiaohua flew toward the soaring Dragon Mountain range, and the Yu province faster than the wind. There was no need to wait for the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Boom, boom, boom. Several hundred thunderous booms resounded from the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Countless lightning bolts shot up into the sky, shaking the earth. 2 giant lightning boats, several 100,000 Fortune Gates Iron Army, and millions of Fortune Gates low-level disciples emerged from the soaring Dragon Mountain range to welcome them. They spread out over 1,000 li in the sky. Xiaohua usually didn't like etiquette, but seeing his own disciples' imposing manner, he was also happy in his heart. How could he blame him? His figure blurred, and he teleported in front of everyone. Before he could say anything, Fu Jiwen and the other disciples led them to kneel on the ground and shouted, "Disciples respectfully welcome Taoists back to the sect." "Good, you've all worked hard." Xiaohua's eyes flashed like lightning as he looked around. Even though all the disciples were kneeling, they could clearly feel Xiaohua's gaze on them. They couldn't help but feel excited, and they couldn't help but reply, "Disciples didn't work hard." "And wait here, and follow this old man back to the Fortune Dao Palace. This old man will reward you according to your contributions." Xiaohua smiled as he raised his hand. He didn't use any divine ability. None of the disciples dared to disobey. They stood up and replied in unison, "Disciples obey, thank you Taoist." As Xiaohua flew up, Fu Jiwen and the other disciples of the Fortune Gate, as well as the disciples of the soaring Dragon Mountain range led by Li Xiang and Fu Jiwen, returned to the Fortune Dao Palace in an orderly manner. They arranged themselves neatly around the Fortune Dao Palace, and formed a capital star formation to protect Xiaohua. Xiaohua sat on the jade chair on the high platform, and raised his hand to pat the top of his head. Rumble. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts poured out from the top of his head, shooting into the sky. The roof of the Fortune Dao Palace and the capital star formation of the soaring Dragon Mountain range couldn't stop it. These lightning bolts condensed into a huge storm in the sky. Not only did it shine brightly, but it also pierced through the clouds. The sound of thunder that could vanquish all evil even enveloped the sky for tens of thousands of li. The lightning storm spewed out from the top of Xiaohua's head, and after it flowed in the sky, it slowly entered Xiaohua's body. It flowed endlessly, and Xiaohua's voice resounded in the lightning storm. "Xian Songzi, Daoist Jingting, Wang Baifei, Yu Zhongquan and Chang Yuan, listen up. Disciple is here." The 5 of them didn't dare to delay, and they hurriedly stepped out and bowed respectfully. "Each of you will lead 50,000 Fortune Gate disciples, and split into 4 directions. Head to the 3 continents to welcome the Fortune Gate disciples coming out from the Star Moon Palace. There are 8,111 Golden Core Realm disciples and 3,607 Foundation Establishment Realm disciples participating in the Star Moon Palace's training. Not a single one of them can be missing. Whoever dares to harm my Fortune Gate disciples will be killed." "Yes, disciple understands." Xian Songzi and the others immediately stood up and led the 200,000 disciples out of the soaring Dragon Mountain range, heading to the 3 continents' 4 directions. It wasn't just Xian Songzi and the others. Even the other disciples who had flown far away turned their heads to look at the clouds. Thunderous roars could be heard, and thousands of strange phenomena appeared amidst the wind and thunder. An unparalleled sense of pride rose from the bottom of their hearts. The human race's Mahayana realm, the supreme cultivator of the 3 continents, should have such an imposing manner. 200,000 disciples accepted the order and left. The soaring Dragon Mountain range became somewhat empty. Xiaohua looked all around for a moment, and his gaze fell on Li Xiang and His Highness Lan. Li Xiang didn't expect Xiaohua to return with such a valiant aura. He was so excited that his face became somewhat red. Li Xiang, Prince Lan. Xiaohua smiled and said, "The 2 of you have worked hard. Tell me about the situation in the past 200 years, and let Fu Jiwen and the others learn from you." Disciple doesn't dare to claim credit. Li Xiang and Prince Lan were startled, and hurriedly stepped out from the ranks. This is what disciples should do. What the soaring Dragon Mountain range was like in the past, and what it is like now, this old man knows better than the 2 of you. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "Tell me how the Fortune Gate has developed in the past few years." "Yes, master." Hearing this, His Highness Lan agreed, and began to tell Xiongyi everything that happened after Xiaohua left. Although His Highness Lan's story was no different from Xiongyi's, for some reason, perhaps because of Xiaohua's suspicion, Xiaohua always felt that His Highness Lan wanted to take all the credit for himself. Without waiting for Prince Lan to finish, Xiaohua sighed in his heart. First impressions are the strongest. Really amazing, ah. After Prince Lan finished speaking, Li Xiang added a few more words. Finally, Li Xiang took out a jade eye from his bosom and respectfully handed it over to Xiongyi. "This disciple knows that master will be back soon. This is the list that this disciple and junior brother Lan recently made. Inside it are the rewards for the inner sect disciples that the 2 of us have discussed. Originally, we should wait for junior brother Xiongyi to return before the 3 of us take a look. Since master has returned first, please take a look and decide how to reward us." Prince Lan blanked for a second, then smiled and said, "This is something that disciple casually mentioned a few years ago." Disciple didn't expect senior brother Li to make such a detailed list. Disciple has slacked a little. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. There is no need to be arrogant or inferior. Being able to work together to handle the Fortune Gate's affairs so well is not easy. Xiaohua took the jade eye pendant and casually glanced at it. He then passed it to Prince Lan and said, "I'll leave this matter to you. Reward each disciple according to what is written in the jade eye pendant. Don't disappoint them." When Highness Lan saw this, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. Rewarding the disciples was a great opportunity to attract people's hearts. He was originally a little jealous of Xiaohua for snatching this opportunity, but he didn't expect that Xiaohua would actually give this opportunity to him. However, he still declined. "Master, this is senior brother Li's draft, you see. Where would he have the time to do this, ah?" Xiaohua laughed. "You have received master's teachings, but he hasn't. Master will guide him in his cultivation during this period." "Thank you, master." Li Xiang was overjoyed hearing this, and Prince Lan was also happy. Xiaohua asked a few more questions about the Fortune Gate, the hidden immortal mainland, and even the Luoyang Merchant Union before he sent Prince Lan and the other Fortune Gate disciples out, leaving Li Xiang, Fu Jiwen and the others in the Fortune Dao Palace. "Master." Fu Jiwen pondered for a moment, then said, "Disciple has a private matter to discuss with master." "Oh, is it urgent?" Xiaohua was surprised and asked casually. "This matter is very important. It can't be considered urgent." Fu Jiwen answered honestly but didn't say what it was. "And then wait for a while." Xiaohua nodded, and Fu Jiwen withdrew. Subsequently, Xiaohua ordered Li Xiang to sit down cross-legged, then he stretched out a finger and pressed it between Li Xiang's eyebrows. A trace of crystal light entered, and a moment later, Xiaohua said with satisfaction, "Li Xiang, although your cultivation hasn't improved much in the past 200 years, your foundation is very solid, which suits your temperament. Now master will teach you some secret techniques and give you some pills. You should be able to enter the unity stage soon." Disciples' aptitude is not good, but to be able to receive master's teachings and enter the unity stage in my lifetime, Disciple has long surpassed disciple's expectations. Disciple thanks master for the gift. Li Xiang didn't regret that he could only enter the unity stage. Instead, he was grateful from the bottom of his heart. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 45-86. Seeing that Li Xiang's requirements were not high, not much different from when he was at Blackwind Ridge, Xiaohua sighed. Li Xiang, every cultivator's path is different, and their achievements are also different. You and Xiong-yi are master's disciples, your foundation is indeed a little weak. But don't worry, master will do his best to arrange some opportunities for you in the future. I hope you will go further and exceed master's expectations. Moreover, your talent in this life. Xiaohua originally wanted to reveal some information about reincarnation, but he stopped when he was about to speak. After all, reincarnation was one of the world's mysteries. Xiaohua didn't have much confidence at this time, so he didn't dare to say this, and caused Li Xiang to be negligent. Li Xiang didn't understand the meaning in Xiaohua's words, and didn't notice that Xiaohua didn't mention the real meaning of Prince Lan. He thought that Prince Lan's achievements would be much higher than his, so Li Xiang smiled and said, Master, don't worry, disciple knows his own weight. Disciple will do his best to take care of the Fortune Gates affairs for master. Good. Xiaohua gave Li Xiang a cultivation technique and medicinal pills, then took out the Kunlun mirror and said, During this time, you can cultivate in the Kunlun paradise. Thank you, master. Li Xiang was overjoyed, but he didn't forget to say, Also, master, if possible, please consider other foundation establishment and golden core disciples, let them cultivate in the Kunlun paradise. The Kunlun paradise is different from the three mainlands. Disciples below the nascent soul realm are not suitable to cultivate in there. Xiaohua smiled and said, However, those disciples in the qi refining realm can be considered. Don't worry, after you cultivate in seclusion, draw up a plan, master will consider it. Speaking of this, Xiaohua hesitated again and asked, Also, is the Hidden Immortal Mainland's Jade Pavilion Conference going to be held soon? Li Xiang was dazed for a moment, then nodded and said, Yes, master, it will be held in a month's time. Why, does master want disciple to go to the Jade Pavilion Conference? No. Xiaohua smiled and said, You don't need to think too much about this matter. Master will ask Fujiwen to send a disciple to snatch an imperial preceptor's lot. It's not a big matter. Think about the development of our Fortune Gate's outer disciples. After all, it's a little troublesome. Yes, master. Li Xiang understood Xiaohua's meaning. After that, Xiaohua shook the Kunlun mirror and took Li Xiang into the Shenhua continent. He then looked at Fujiwen and frowned. Disciple, didn't Sun Jian promise to persuade immortal Emperor Go-Qin? Why is the Immortal Palace sending troops to annihilate my Fortune Gate? He returned to the Immortal Palace before all of you. If you hadn't come back in time, my Fortune Gate's foundation would be in trouble. Fujiwen looked around and said with a smile, Master, this is all in the past. Although General Sun has never explained anything, it is still a matter of the past. But seeing that Martial Uncle Wuxia has become an immortal master of the Immortal Palace, we should know that General Sun is also a man of his word. There must be something wrong with this. What? Once you had become an immortal master of the Immortal Palace? When did this happen? Xiaohua was somewhat stunned. Fujiwen was also stunned. He smiled apologetically and said, Could it be that Martial Uncle Leiting didn't tell master? He didn't. Xiaohua said with a smile. He was in a hurry to cultivate. After he escaped into the Kunlun immortal realm, he didn't say anything. My disciple, tell me about the things that have happened all these years. Yes, master. Fujiwen didn't dare to be negligent. He told Xiaohua about the matters of the three continents. In the end, he said, There is news coming from the continuous merchant union every day. These news are all stored in the Wind Pavilion. Master can go take a look if you have nothing to do. And master understands. Xiaohua rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The Confucian cultivators have an immortal master, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas is weak, and the Paradise River is rising. This has a deep impact on the three continents. Oh, what about the Buddhist sect? The Sutra seeking supreme bliss? reporting to Master, the sutra-seeking supreme bliss is quite far from the soaring dragon mountain range. There isn't much news about the continuous merchant union. However, the sutra-seeking supreme bliss seems to have reached the hidden immortal mainland. I just don't know when it will end. Fu Jiwen smiled and said, if Master wants to know, disciple will send someone to ask. No need to be deliberate. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, I'm afraid Master doesn't have much time left. Master will only think about you all. Ah, Master. Fu Jiwen was surprised, then he was overjoyed and shouted, congratulations Master for reaching the peak of the Grand Ascension stage. Previously, I was still a little worried, but now I can finally be at ease. Disciple, what do you mean? Xiaohua recalled what Fu Jiwen had said earlier, and a bad feeling arose in his heart. He asked curiously, Master's cultivation. Could it be that it has something to do with the important matter you mentioned? Yes, Master. Fu Jiwen thought for a while and said, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's ninth princess, Princess Xian, lost half of the Immortal Palace's Heaven's Heart and couldn't take out the Heaven's Heart during the Heaven's Selection Conference. In a fit of rage, Immortal Emperor Go Chen imprisoned her in the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal and banished her to the lower realm. It's been nearly 300 years since then. What? Xinqin was imprisoned in the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal? You. Who did you hear that from? When Xiaohua heard this, his complexion unconsciously changed. He stood up from the jade chair in shock. The originally calm thunderstorm suddenly erupted like a gigantic thunder sword that directly slashed into the blue dome of heaven. Tens of thousands of li to the left of the thunderstorm, the silent thunderstorm crazily expanded, swallowing countless clouds and shattering them into pieces. Fu Jiwen only felt as if the entire world was collapsing. Countless stars dimmed, countless clouds rose and fell. His entire soul and body were like a falling leaf, rapidly spinning without landing. Master, it's Bayan who said it. Fu Jiwen couldn't breathe. He struggled with all his might, barely spitting out a few words from his mouth. Immediately after, Xiaohua made an in sound. As if the heavens and earth were splitting apart, the space around Fu Jiwen had light and darkness, the energy of heaven and earth, and the freedom of rebirth. Fu Jiwen looked at his master in shock. It had only been 50 years since they last met, and he was even more unable to understand his master's realm. The feeling of being a drop in the ocean involuntarily slowly emerged along with the sweat on his back. Xiaohua's figure was like a mountain, standing there steadily. His mood was like the thunderstorm in the sky, crazily swaying, unruly sweeping across the horizon. Towards Princess Xian, there was no need to mention the hardships of experiencing life and death together in the profound water palace. There was no need to mention the dreamlike sweetness in the illusory array. There was no need to mention the sorrowful bitterness when the 3 cups of fate ended. Just the tacit understanding between the thumb and the hand that held her hand, and the kiss between life and death in the profound water palace were enough for Xiaohua to plant the seed of love in his heart for Xian. Xiaohua had the cultivation of a Buddhist sect, but he wasn't a Buddha. Xiaohua was a cultivator, but he wasn't an immortal. Even immortals had the love of Suji and Xingyue, so how could Xiaohua not find new feelings after leaving fairy Hongxia for hundreds of thousands of years? Not to mention the hazy feelings between Xiaohua and Princess Xian. It had already become a seed that was growing strong. Xiaohua knew that Princess Xian's heavenly heart was so important that she was willing to be imprisoned in the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal for him. Xiaohua couldn't help but be moved. There was a kind of love called concealment. There was also a kind of love called sacrifice. There was also a kind of love called completion. Xiaohua also wanted to tell Xian that there was a kind of love called commitment. Xiaohua steadied his mind, and his gaze swept across Fu Jiwen's body like stars. He sat down again and asked in a low voice, "When did Bayan send the message?" "Master, it's like this." Fu Jiwen took a deep breath and told Xiaohua about 10 years ago when Bayan was banished from the Immortal Palace and was stranded near the soaring Dragon Mountain Range. He was discovered by a Fortune Gate disciple and brought into the Fortune Dao Palace. In the end, Fu Jiwen hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice. In addition, Bayan also said that seeing Fu Jiwen's hesitation, Xiaohua couldn't help but frown. His heart trembled even more, and he asked, "What's wrong? Is there any more bad news?" Fu Jiwen shook his head and replied, "It's not particularly bad news, but the Nangong family seems to have the intention of looting a burning house. They want to take advantage of this opportunity to propose marriage to the immortal palace. Their intentions are punishable by death." Xiaohua's eyes narrowed, and a chill appeared on his face. Even someone as strong as Fu Jiwen felt as if snow was falling under the moon. However, until now, the Continuous Merchant Union has not received any news about the marriage between the Nangong family and the Immortal Palace. Fu Jiwen hurriedly said, "Continuous Merchant Union?" Xiaohua sneered and looked outside the Fortune Dao Palace. He said in a rather lonely voice, "After arriving at the Star Moon Palace, Master found out that the Continuous Merchant Union is just a child. It's too difficult for them to get any news from the Immortal Palace." Indeed. Fu Jiwen nodded. After Disciple received the news, Disciple discussed with Bai, and then hurriedly sent the news of the new princess being banished to the lower realm, and the Nangong family to the Continuous Merchant Union. The Continuous Merchant Union also spent a lot of money to search, but Disciple has not found any valuable information. Origin stones are not omnipotent. There are some things that cannot be exchanged with origin stones. Xiaohua said indifferently. The secrets of the Immortal Palace and the four great families have been hidden on the hidden Immortal Continent for who knows how many years. It is not something that our Fortune Gate can compare to. Speaking of this, Xiaohua pondered for a moment and said to Fu Jiwen, "Summon Bai and tell Master the results of your discussions over the years." "Yes, Master." Fu Jiwen flew out of the Fortune Dao Palace. As for Xiaohua, he was sitting on a jade chair, his fingers trembling in the air. He seemed to be forming hand seals, but also seemed to be writing some green seal text. His eyebrows furrowed even tighter. After a short while, Bayan followed Fu Jiwen to the Fortune Dao Palace. When Xiaohua returned to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range and released the thunderstorm from the top of the Fortune Dao Palace, Bayan had already sensed it. She was shocked. After meeting Xiaohua, she had already told Fu Jiwen to cultivate with Xiaohua. Moreover, after being banished to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, she had been secretly delighted to see Fu Jiwen's cultivation. She knew that her prediction was right, but when she saw Xiaohua's Grand Ascension Stage aura again, she still found it hard to calm down. She really did not dare to imagine that in just a few hundred years, Xiaohua could actually stand side by side with Emperor Go Chun and become the supreme cultivator of the human race on the 3 continents. Moreover, she was also shocked by the East Sea Empress scheme. Chapter 4587. When Bayan entered the Fortune Dao Palace, she glanced around and saw that Xiaohua was the only one sitting in the main hall. Although the Xiaohua in front of her didn't look any different from the previous Xiaohua, Bayan didn't dare to neglect him. She hurriedly retracted her gaze and followed behind Fu Jiwen. Lowering her head, she flew to the bottom of the stage and kowtowed. "Servant Bayan greets Dao Master." Xiaohua was stunned and smiled bitterly. He glanced at Fu Jiwen and hurriedly helped Bayan up. A smile appeared on his face as he said, "Bayan, no need to be so polite. As the saying goes, master and disciple are like father and son. Fu Jiwen is my disciple and my child. You are his dual cultivation partner and my Fortune Gate's daughter-in-law. You can call him Dao Master in front of others and call him Master in private." "Yes, Master." Bayan was overjoyed and hurriedly corrected herself. Xiaohua looked at Bayan and reprimanded Fu Jiwen. "Disciple, you're hiding something. You haven't taught Bayan the 5 energies unification technique that Martial Uncle once you taught you." Without Martial Uncle's approval, Disciple wouldn't dare. Fu Jiwen's eyes lit up and he hurriedly bowed. "You can teach it yourself. Master will tell you where your Martial Uncle is." Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand again, taking out some pills and flying them to Fu Jiwen. "These are also for you and Bayan." "Thank you, Master." Fu Jiwen and Bayan replied at the same time. After the two of them stood up, Xiaohua thought for a moment before taking out a bottle of pills and handing it over to Bayan. He said, "Bayan, you were once again banished to the lower realms because of Xian. Master truly feels guilty in his heart. This is a pill used by the female cultivators of the Dao sect. It was personally refined by Master. Wanwan knew that this was Xiaohua loving the house and its crow. Because of his guilt towards Xian, he once again looked at her in a new light. Her heart warmed. How could she still accept it? Unknowingly, she fell to her knees again and kowtowed as she cried out, "Master, this disciple is Fujiwen's wife, and also your daughter-in-law. Right now, our family still lacks a princess. This disciple pleads for Master to save the princess. This disciple has experienced the heaven's punishment of the heaven's punishment crystal. I truly know how powerful this heaven's punishment is. This disciple is not sure if Her Highness can survive the most unbearable loneliness in this world. Master, please make a move soon." Xiaohua's face was slightly red as he raised his hand to help Swan and I up again. He said in shame, "Swan and I, get up. It's fine if I didn't know about it before, but now that I know, how can I just stand by and do nothing? Master owes Xian too much. I will not let Xian down in the future." "Thank you, Master." Momo's previous words were actually somewhat threatening Xiaohua, but seeing that Xiaohua didn't care, her heart relaxed, and she was also happy for the new princess. Xiaohua pointed at the jade bottle, and the pill fell into Bai An's hand. Bai An didn't say anything else, and carefully put it away. "Bai An, tell me the origin of this matter, as well as the result of your discussion with Jiwen," Xiaohua asked again. "Yes, Master." Bai An didn't dare to neglect and report it again. But this time, what Bai An said was different from what Fujiwen said. Bai An said more about the new princess's longing for Xiaohua in the Immortal Palace, as well as the many other princesses' schemes against the new princess. She even spoke about the Heaven's Choice Assembly in detail. And when she talked about the 3 cups of fate, Bai An's face was full of tears. "Master, actually before I left, this disciple felt that there was something wrong with the princess. It was as if she was going to say goodbye to Master forever. At that time, this disciple even advised Her Highness that although the other half of the Heaven's heart was lost, with the full power of the Immortal Palace, although the 3 continents were big, it was not impossible to find it again. After finding it, it wouldn't be too late to meet Master again. There was no need to meet Master before the punishment." But Her Highness just smiled and didn't answer, only facing the bronze mirror. This disciple had never seen Her Highness without makeup so solemn. A woman will make herself beautiful for her lover. Master, at that time, this disciple knew that Her Highness truly loved Master. Perhaps she was afraid that Master would take some extreme actions after knowing that she was being punished by the heavens, so she wanted to comfort Master in advance. Moreover, when she returned to the Immortal Palace from the hidden Immortal Continent, Her Highness couldn't hide her smile. She was simply not afraid of the heavens. At that time, this disciple was scared to death. I was really afraid that Her Highness would have other thoughts, so I tried my best to persuade Her Highness. Afterwards, Her Highness went to the 3 provinces of thunder and lightning to receive the heavens' punishment. The entire Immortal Palace was on alert. It was said that the heavens' punishment was personally controlled by Immortal Emperor Go Chun. Even the Eastern Sea Empress didn't know which prison Her Highness was imprisoned in, let alone where the prison was in the 3 continents. Listening to Bai An, Xiaohua's mind was also filled with thoughts. Obviously, Princess Xian didn't tell anyone about the whereabouts of the half-heaven's heart. Even at this time, Bai An didn't know that the Immortal Palace had already gathered the 5 Qi unification method. Of course, Wen Chu was also one of the Fortune Gate secrets. Without Xiaohua's approval, Fujiwen didn't dare to casually tell Bai An about Wen Chu. Xiaohua was just a little confused. Since Sun Jian had already returned to the Immortal Palace, and Wen Chu had offered the 5 Qi unification method to the Immortal Palace, Immortal Emperor Go Chun probably already knew that Xian's half-heaven's heart had fallen into Xiaohua's hands. In particular, with the 5 Qi unification method, that half-heaven's heart had already lost its effect. Immortal Emperor Go Chun imprisoning Xian no longer had any meaning. Xiaohua didn't know why Immortal Emperor Go Chun didn't pardon Xian. Bai An was very obedient and didn't say much about the Nangong family's marriage proposal. He only said one sentence before continuing. When this disciple woke up from the coma and saw that I was in a strange place, I couldn't help but feel a little nervous. However, after this disciple checked my cultivation, I discovered that my cultivation wasn't crippled like the other Immortal Palace disciples who were banished to the lower realm. This disciple was overjoyed and thought that Empress Dowager was being lenient. However, when this disciple met a Fortune Gate disciple, and found out that this was the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, this disciple suddenly realized. This was clearly Empress Dowager wanting this disciple to deliver a letter to Master. Therefore, this disciple hurriedly went to the mountain gate to look for young Master Fu, but the hateful thing was. Fu Jiwen coughed and said, Bayan, pick the main point. It's fine. Xiaohua smiled and said, Bayan, just say it. Actually, it's nothing much. Bayan smiled and said, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate disciple was different from what this disciple had imagined. The disciple guarding the array was actually a little arrogant, and insisted that this disciple take out their palace master land's handwritten order, before they were willing to let this disciple pass. Oh, even a 4th grade Essence Force master like you is so arrogant. Xiaohua wasn't surprised and asked with a smile. That's right. Bayan answered. At that time, the Fortune Gate disciples had just killed several dozen Wen sages and were full of arrogance. This disciple, a 4th grade Essence Force master, was not in their eyes at all. And then? Xiaohua nodded, acknowledging Bayan's complaint and asked again. This disciple has plenty of ways to deal with this kind of disciple. Bayan answered. I gave them some benefits and set some threats. I also reported the names of Lu Yi, Wang Bianfei, and the others that young Master Fu had mentioned to this disciple earlier. Coincidentally, Wang Bianfei was inside the mountain gate. And after reporting, this disciple naturally entered the Fortune Gate. And what did you discuss with Jiwen? Xiaohua closed his eyes, and his expression was indifferent as he asked. Bayan glanced at Fu Jiwen and signaled him with his eyes, indicating that this was the time for Fu Jiwen to perform. Fu Jiwen helplessly shook his head and said, Master, this disciple and Bayan have discussed and felt that there are 2 difficulties in rescuing Her Highness. The first difficulty is to find the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal, and the second difficulty is to find a place with innate restrictions and destroy the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal. The second one is considered the easiest, and the first one is the most difficult, because even the East Sea Empress doesn't know where the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal is. I'm afraid that in the entire Immortal Palace, only the 3 lightning provinces have records of this. Therefore, if Master wants to rescue Her Royal Highness, he must first enter the 3 provinces of Leitang. And said that the 3 provinces of Leitang are in charge of punishment, and are heavily guarded. It is impossible for ordinary people to get close. However, Her Royal Highness is very familiar with the 3 provinces of Leitang. Old Man Sun Yu is an important minister in the 3 provinces of Leitang. If Master can meet Sun Yu, he may be able to get some information. But if Master wants to enter the 3 lightning provinces, you must first enter the Immortal Palace. But where is the Immortal Palace? Bayan doesn't know, and Gusichiodi probably doesn't know either. Ordinary scholarly families also don't know. If you want to find the way to the Immortal Palace, you can either go through the 4 families, Sunjian, or the Star-Picking Tower. Of course, I didn't think that Martial Ant Wunciu would enter the Wunciu Palace of Literature. If Martial Ant Wunciu can cooperate from the inside, it shouldn't be too difficult for Master to enter the Immortal Palace. After passing the most difficult stage, Master just needs to find out where Her Highness Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal is in the 3 lightning provinces. And here, General Sun Yu should be able to help. Hearing this, Xiaohua shook his head and said, Since the East Sea Empress can't find out, how can Sun Jian find out? Master, you don't know. Bayan smiled and said, The East Sea Empress doesn't know how to find out, but she can't. The Empress is the mother of the world, and she has to be a role model for all the women in the world. She also has to treat the 9 princesses fairly, so she can't find out. And General Sun. At this point, Bayan suddenly realized something and said curiously, Master, the Sun Jian that Master is talking about can't be perfected Lord Qingyuan of the Sun Palace? He's still alive. Xiaohua didn't hide it from Bayan. Didn't I say just now? He has already returned to the Immortal Palace. Oh, I understand. Bayan stuck out her tongue and immediately thought of Sun Cho, who had gone to the Hall of Fragrance. She knew why the East Sea Empress had asked her to send a letter to Xiaohua. It must be because Sun Jian had revealed Xiaohua's strength. Then Bian said confidently, "Before I was demoted, perfected Lord Qingyuan was in the Hall of Fragrance. But he was called Sun Chou at that time, and he was also in charge of the Sun Palace. I think the East Sea Empress called him to the Hall of Fragrance to find out where Her Highness is. On the other hand, the Empress sent me to the lower realm to send a letter to Master. This way, we can work together from the inside. Donate and thank you for all your support. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.